and Design Committee. So the first meeting is the Audit Committee meeting. Mr. Curtis, will you please proceed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The meeting of the Audit Committee is now in session. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the meeting held December 2nd. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call.
Brew. Present. Yes.
Yes.
Curtis.
Yes,
Zelger. Yes.
a motion is approved. Committee items 2 and 3, proposed revisions to the Board of Trustees policies on internal audit, code of ethics, and code of conduct. Executive Director Labonte, will you present these items?
Good morning, I'd be happy to. Committee item 2, the internal audit charter for Southern Illinois University is included in board policy. A revision to the policy is necessary to comply with the international standards for the professional practice of internal auditing developed by the Institute of Internal Auditors, with which my office is required to comply. These standards require certain specific language be included in the internal audit charter. The proposed revision is technical in nature as it represents an update to the manner in which the standards are referenced in the policy. Therefore, I propose this recommended policy change be approved. Committee item number 3, the code of ethics and code of conduct for Southern Illinois University are included in board policy. A revision of these policies is necessary to incorporate anti-corruption language as recommended by the Institute of Internal Auditors. The IIA recommends organizations establish an effective anti-corruption program, including controls relating to preventing, detecting, responding to, and recovering from risks associated with corruption. The proposed language additions to these policies sets the groundwork to incorporate anti-corruption language into our already existing anti-fraud framework. Further, corresponding language additions to promote an anti-corruption program will be made to the university guidelines, annual ethics training content, and various survey tools used for the risk assessment purposes by my office. Therefore, I propose these recommended policy changes be approved.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve committee items 2 and 3?
So moved. Second.
Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call vote.
Brew. Yes. Curtis.
Yes.
Souter. Yes.
These items have been approved by the Audit Committee. Item 4 is a presentation of the fiscal year 21 audit of the SIU system. Executive Director Labonte, would you please present that report?
Sure. This last agenda item is a presentation of the fiscal year 21 audits of the system. They were conducted by Plant Moran as special assistant auditors to the Illinois Office of the Auditor General. The financial report was released on June 8th, and it contained an unqualified opinion, and the compliance and single audit reports were released on July 13th, and those also contained unmodified opinions. Links to these reports were shared with all members of the audit committee at the time of release, and those reports have also been filed with the U.S. Department of Education and the Federal Clearinghouse. In your materials today, you should have a handout there that summarizes what I'm about to discuss. In total, these reports contained 16 audit findings, which is down from 18 in the prior year. The most troubling matter with respect to these findings is the fact that 13 of the 16 findings are repeated, meaning that the matters were first identified in previous years and satisfactory correction has not yet been taken to correct those. The 16 current year findings include 1 financial matter, 4 federal compliance matters, and 11 general state compliance or internal control matters. I'll start first with a brief description of the financial reporting matter. In fiscal year 20, all Illinois public universities received a finding regarding a lack of a reconciliation process to provide assurance that census data submitted to the pension system was complete and accurate. Work to remedy this finding is underway on both campuses, but both campuses lacked sufficient time and resources to complete that corrective action by the end of 21. So it resulted in a repeated finding. Federal compliance findings, those are findings that relate to the handling of federal grant funds or financial aid matters, and they continue to be somewhat common on our campus, and they're difficult to fully remediate. All 4 of the federal compliance findings reported this cycle were repeated from last year or prior years. However, it should be noted that there were 4 federal compliance matters that were initially reported last year, including 3 of them that related to our handling or reporting of PERF funds under the CARES Act, and those were fully remedied. So the 4 remaining federal findings are primarily the result of decreased enrollment in certain grant programs, a lack of monitoring or human error in routine processes, or limited resources to ensure processes are carried out in compliance with certain federal mandates. As I've mentioned in years past, unfortunately, federal findings, once they're recorded, they're typically difficult to fully resolve as there's no tolerance for error at the federal level. So it is important that we continue to ensure that sufficient resources are dedicated to these matters to get them corrected. And then lastly, I'll talk a little bit about some of our state compliance findings. So our state compliance findings are weaknesses in computer inventory control, the university's failure to require faculty file timesheets, weaknesses in cybersecurity and other IT security practices, and then non-compliance with statutory mandates, including the SIU Management Act, the Illinois Articulation Initiative, the Forensic Psychiatry Fellowship Training Act, and the State Library Act. With regard to these state findings, 8 of the 11 are repeated from prior years, and 3 of them have persisted for more than 5 years. It should be noted, though, that progress is being made with respect to at least 2 of the 3 persistently repeated matters. Specifically, the timesheet matter has been successfully bargained with SIUC faculty, and there are plans to bargain with SIUE faculty are underway. Additionally, successful legislation and persistence by area management has resulted in a quorum finally being achieved at the latest advisory board meeting of the National Corn to Ethanol Plant at SIUE. That finding was repeated due to the timing of the corrective action, but we're hoping that that finding will not be repeated in 22. The other persistent finding is the one relating to weaknesses in inventory control. That finding was first reported in fiscal year 12. And implementation of corrective action continues to be ongoing on our campuses. The campuses agree that continued efforts can be taken to further improve our inventory processes. Each campus is forming working groups consisting of representation from various campus departments to address the issue on a broader perspective. And these groups continue to meet to discuss the best practices and looking for ways to enhance the system. Our technology offices also continue to monitor data loss prevention practices and encryption on our assets. These offices continue to push encryption to the fleet. And as the university has aged out older computers and we get newer ones, the encryption rate has climbed to about 90% of our computers now. It's hoped that these continued focused areas will slowly address the issue of missing computers, but we also expect that it's unlikely that we'll ever get down to the point of eliminating all loss. Finally, I should mention that in our official response to the Auditor General's office this year, we did disagree with 2 matters that were reported. We disagreed with the auditor's interpretation of actions to be taken under the Illinois Articulation Initiative with respect to modifying courses to obtain approval and equivalent measures. And then additionally, we disagreed with the auditor's recommendations to maintain confidential internal control reports obtained from our third-party service providers beyond the point of review. Responsible parties have agreed, though, to work to resolve these differences. This concludes my summary of the 21 report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions for Executive Director Labonte?
If I could jump in with a question, Kim, how does this audit compare with previous audit findings?
So the number of findings went down by 2. So in prior year, we had 18, we're down to 16. But again, what I say, I think 13 of those are repeated from the prior year. So there were only 3 new findings. So that's good that they only found 3 additional weaknesses in our operations. The troubling part is that 13 of those continue to be problems that we are not able to fully remediate. On that note, though, I did do a little bit of math yesterday to determine that the Auditor General's office in fiscal 21, they issued 129 findings total across all state universities. 70% of those findings are repeated at other universities as well. Our repeat rate is 81%, 13 of our 16. So we have a repeat rate of 81%, but so we're probably driving that percentage up a little bit, but clearly there's a repeat issue. Only 38 new findings were issued out of 129 total. So it appears as though all of the universities are having trouble fully remediating the findings that are reported. But our opinions were clean. Our opinions have always been clean. And the nature of the findings, I would say, is very similar to what they have been in the past.
Any other questions for them? Hearing none and no further business to come before the audit committee, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. The next meeting is a Finance Committee meeting. In Mr. Tedrick's absence, I will appoint trustee Curtis to lead today's finance committee meeting. Mr. Curtis, you may
Thank you,
proceed.
Mr. Chair. The Finance Committee meeting is now in session. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the meeting held April 28th. Could I have a motion, please?
So
moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Curtis,
Yes.
Odell,
Yes.
Sharma.
Yes.
Thank you.
The minutes are approved. Committee item 2 is an approval to add the heating and refrigeration parking lot at the SIUE to the Housing and Auxiliary Facilities System. Senior Vice President Stuckey, will you present this item?
Thank you, Chair. This is, as explained in the board matter, this is one parking lot that was not constructed in the revenue bond system at SIUE. It would be beneficial to add it to the bond system, let its revenue and expenses flow through it, and it would benefit from the being part of a larger system. We seek your approval.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for the Finance Committee to approve this item?
So moved.
And I'll second.
Madam Secretary, would you call the vote?
Curtis,
Yes.
Odell. Yes. Sharma.
Yes.
The item is approved. Committee item 3 proposes a reduction to student health insurance fee at SIUC. Chancellor Lane, will you present the item?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a matter that you almost never hear the chance of bringing to your attention, but this is a reduction in the student fee, in this particular fee. Reduction is a nominal amount of $5 per semester. The matter nevertheless proposes a change to the previously approved rate that we did back in April. And you'll see that in your table number 1. The student health insurance fee is set each year by the vendor as allowed under the contractual agreement the university entered into with it in April of 2015. This year, the vendor recognized a small calculation error in its rate and informed the university of such following its approval of the April board meeting, as I mentioned. We communicated this error to the appropriate student groups, and I'm pleased to be able to bring this small change to the board for its approval.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for the Finance Committee to approve committee item number 3? I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call vote.
Curtis,
Yes.
Odell. Yes. Sharma.
Yes.
The item is approved by committee. Committee item 4 proposes additional approval of purchase authority for software maintenance at the Carbondale and Edwardsville campuses. Interim Information Officer, Mr. Clark, would you speak to this item?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. I'm Will Clark. I'm the interim director of information technology at SIU Carbondale office, and I am, well, new in this role, only 8 months in. I've been at SIU Carbondale for 5 years. I'm here today to present a matter to you that seeks approval to increase the purchase authority of a combined software maintenance agreement with Pollution Company, LP, for the Carbondale and Edwardsville campuses. Back in May 2016, the SIU Board of Trustees approved a 7-year contract for Illusion Software Solution banner valued at $5,650,000 to provide the student information system for both SIU Carbondale and SIU Edwardsville. Unfortunately, when calculating the value of the contract back then, SIU Carbondale missed including an integral maintenance component of the solution, meaning the value of the contract should have been $6,315,000. While efforts were made over the years to eliminate or reduce costs during the life of the contract to accommodate this oversight, those efforts were unsuccessful. The current contract expires June 30th, 2023, and this increase will cover all of the services needed until that time. To be sure, we have made note of this oversight and will be diligent to ensure all foreseeable costs are covered as we begin negotiating a new student information system contract for fiscal year 2024 and beyond. Thank you for considering this request. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Any discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for the Finance Committee to approve committee item number 4?
So moved.
So second.
Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call.
Curtis,
Yes.
Odell. Yes. Sharma,
yes,
This item is approved by committee. Committee item 5 proposes approval of purchase of physician coverage at the School of Medicine. Dean Cruz, will you speak to this item?
Yes, thank you. This matter seeks approval for an agreement with Weatherby Locums Incorporated to provide locum tenens physician coverage for pediatric general surgery and pediatric orthopedic surgery for FY 23 for $1,283,000. We had a similar contract in FY 22. This agreement includes an option to cancel with 30-day notice, which provides us the ability to cancel it when we get permanent faculty members for it. It will be covered by non-appropriated funds.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for the Finance Committee to approve committee item number 5?
so moved.
so second,
Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call vote.
Curtis,
Yes.
Odell. Yes. Sharma,
yes,
This item is approved by committee. Committee item 6, approval of salary and appointment for the Vice Chancellor of Research and Graduate School Dean at SIUC. Chancellor Lane, will you speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm delighted to recommend the hiring of a permanent vice chancellor for research and dean of the graduate school. As the university reestablishes this combined position following many years of interim leadership in this particular office. Following a national search in which 3 finalists were interviewed, I'm pleased to recommend the hiring of Dr. Kostas Satsoulis for this position with an effective date of August 1st. Dr. Satsoulis has more than 30 years of experience in higher education, has a strong background in research, graduate affairs, and computer science. He most recently served as the Vice Provost of Graduate Education at Missouri University of Science and Technology, was a professor in the Department of Computer Science. He's a native of Greece and is a 3-degree graduate of Purdue University.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for the Finance Committee to approve committee item number 6?
so moved,
Second.
Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call vote.
Curtis,
Yes.
Odell. Yes. Sharma,
yes,
This item is approved by committee. Committee item 7, proposed approval for salary and appointment for Vice Chancellor of the University Advancement at SIUE. Chancellor Minor, will you speak to this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to present to the board approval of Blair Seth Walker to the position of Vice Chancellor for University Advancement. Following a national search, Seth Walker was identified as the best candidate in that pool, and he comes to SIUE, if approved, from Kennesaw State University, which is just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, 43,000 students. He currently serves as the Director of Development for the Coles College of Business, and we recommend him to the board for an effective date of August 1st.
Thank you, Chancellor. Any discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for the Finance Committee to approve committee item number 7?
so moved,
Second.
Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call vote.
Curtis,
Yes.
Odell. Yes. Sharma,
yes,
This item is approved by committee. Committee item number 8, proposes the approval of SIU School of Medicine Dean and Provost Employment Agreement. Chancellor Lane, will you present the item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm really delighted to present this and glad that we're here at the SIU School of Medicine and being able to do this publicly. But for your consideration, this is an employment agreement to retain Dr. Jerry Cruz as Dean and Provost of the SIU School of Medicine. As many of you know, and I know in my 2 years of being here, Jerry has done a tremendous job here at this institution, this school, and I'm really proud of his leadership. He has sustained the school's excellent reputation as an academic institution and advances in academic programs that have grown enrollment and enriched our campus. Dr. Cruz has assured that the SIU School of Medicine has fulfilled its mission and as a school where scholarship, research, and service and patient care across the state are truly hallmarks of its faculty, staff, and students. The terms of the contract are provided within agenda item U and I, and I'm thankful that we have the opportunity to extend the contract through July 31st, if approved, July 31st, 2026. Again, I can't explain how grateful we are for Dr. Cruz, especially in the last 2 years of working through our COVID-19 challenges, and he has been a steady force all the way through. So that's for your consideration.
Thank you, Chancellor Lane, and I too, as chair of this committee, want to add my congratulations to you for extending Dean Cruz's contract for additional 4 years. Any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion by the Finance Committee to approve committee item number 8?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call vote.
Curtis.
Yes,
Odell. Yes. Sharma.
Yes.
this item is approved by committee. Item number 9, approval of amendment to executive extension of, well, let's do 9 through 13. Committee items 9 through 13 propose amendments and extensions for contracts for the chancellors and president, and also incentive compensation. Chair Gilbert, will you discuss these items?
Yes, thank you, Chair. You know, Chancellor Lane's current total compensation puts him at or close to the bottom of among other campus universities and systems leaders in the state. Comparisons with campus leaders at similar institutions outside of the state also show his compensation is near the bottom and well below the average. In fact, we will still be below the average with these compensations, even with the additional compensation, but it will be more competitive. One of the top priorities for SIU and on the Carbondale campus was to have stability and leadership after many years of frequent turnover. There's been a large increase in president and chancellor openings in the last year. This trend will not change as the large baby boomer generation continues to reach retirement age. A successful leader with president and chancellor experience will be an appealing candidate to those universities looking for a new president or chancellor. So while Chancellor Lane has never discussed leaving or applying for another job, and neither has President Mahoney, we recognize that we will be increasingly approached with opportunity. They will be increasingly approached with opportunities. Given all this, the board, along with President Mahoney, believed it was necessary to make a change in compensation now and extend his contract for 4 more years. And we're doing the same with President Mahoney's contract. SIU has handled president and chancellor compensation differently than other institutions. While most provide larger compensations at the beginning, the SIU board offers lower than average compensation at the starting point. And the board understands at this time and wanted to ensure the individuals hired would be successful in the role before offering higher compensation common at other institutions. It's always kind of baffled me how some universities, especially with respect to coaching positions, offer mega bucks to hire a coach, not even knowing whether they can win or lose it, win a game. But here we have a situation where we hired both President Mahoney and Chancellor Lane at a fair but compensation, and they have demonstrated through their, you've been here, what, 2.5 years? And Chancellor Lane 2 years, how this system has moved forward, how the campus and the system has moved forward. And so they have proven themselves. And when that happens, they need to be rewarded for the incentives that, for incentive compensation for the wonderful work that they have done. As I said, after 2 years, the board, along with President Mahoney, believes Chancellor Lane has proven himself to be a highly effective leader for the SIUC campus, and President Mahoney has proved himself to be an effective leader for the entire system. And so in order to be competitive, in order to provide stability to the system and to the various campuses, we are proposing this amendment to the contracts. Now, in doing an analysis, we found that nearly all the presidents and chancellors in the state have a university-provided housing or housing supplement, with the exception of the SIU president and chancellors. Now, of course, I go back to the days of Dwight Morris, and he had a house. But even when Dwight Morris retired, when they hired presidents, they provided housing allowances. Dr. Bouchard, I don't know, did you have a housing allowance when you were president?
We did.
Yeah, so it was on recently that the housing allowances fell by the wayside. And so we are reinstituting housing allowances for our top leadership. Not only President Mahoney, but Chancellor Lane and also Chancellor Minor, which is standard and traditional throughout the universities throughout the country. I know when we hired President Mahoney, he came from a university in which they provided him a house to live in. So this is not out of the norm, it's customary. So now in doing the compensation for the additional, not the housing allowance, but for the additional incentive compensation, the board did not want to use state funding to support any performance bonus or to increase the overall salary. So the SIU Foundation has agreed to support the increase for Chancellor Lane and also President Mahoney. Performance bonuses are common for the SIU Foundation. All those who work for the foundation, regardless of position, receive performance bonuses when current goals are achieved. In addition, there are other employees, such as coaches, who receive supplements to their salary from the foundation. This approach is common for universities across the country. And so we're not doing anything that's not unusual. Now, the SIU Foundation has embarked on a $500 million fundraising project, of which both Chancellor Lane and President Mahoney will be intricately involved in helping to raise funds. So they will be part of the fundraising in helping provide their own incentive pay from the foundation. So it is the Chair Curtis, I'm asking that the Finance Committee approve these incentive, number one, approve the amendments to the contracts and improve these incentive payments for our chancellors and president, and also the housing allowance for Chancellor Minor.
Thank you, Chair Gilbert. We appreciate your leadership on this matter. Any discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for the Finance Committee to approve items 9 through 13?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call vote.
Curtis.
Yes.
Odell. Yes. Sharma.
Yes.
Items are approved by committee. Being no other business to come before the Finance Committee, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. I will now turn the meeting over to Mr. Simmons for the Architectural and Design Committee meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from April 28th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Misty, would you mind calling the roll?
Curtis.
Yes.
Odell. Yes. Simmons.
Yes. Motion carries. Item 2 on our agenda is the proposed revision of the Board of Trustees policy on naming. General Counsel, would you mind presenting that?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This matter presents for your consideration a revision to board legislation, specifically the board policy for naming of physical components of the university. Occasionally, the university will review board policies, and those often result in suggested changes to update or improve them, such as with this naming policy. In this instance, President Mahoney also tasked a committee to review the policy to see if there were needed revisions or unaddressed items that might benefit from additions. The committee consisted of members from each campus as well as the system, in particular, Vice President Caldwell, Matt Bauman, and Linda Renee Baker from Carbondale, John Horvath from here at the medical school, the SIUE Foundation interim CEO and Vice Chancellor for Advancement, Kathy Taylor, as well as a faculty member, Katie Poole Jones. And I would just mention Professor Jones is an expert in this field. She's actually been called to testify once or twice before the General Assembly on this naming and renaming issue. Also Jennifer Wagner in my office and myself were on the committee. I do want to note some kudos to Jennifer for her heavy lifting on the policy drafting while I'm mentioning it. So the policy adds some clarity to definitions for which components need to come to the board level, and those areas or spaces which remain at presidential level for approval and the naming. Most notably, perhaps, as the policy now addresses if there need to be changes or removal of names from those physical components. We did not have that part of the policy before, so we've now got a process by which that can be done for those renaming. So it's presented for your approval. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for general counsel? Anyone from the board? Thank you. Is there a motion to approve committee item 2?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Madam Secretary, will you perform the roll call?
Curtis,
Yes.
Odell. Yes. Simmons,
Yes. Motion is passed. Committee item 3, proposed revision of the budget and award of contract for the Richard Moy MD building renovation at the School of Medicine. Dean Cruz, would you present this item?
Yes, I will. Thank you. Thank you very much. This matter seeks revision of the budget, revision of award of contract for about $2,155,000 for the Richard H. Moy building. It's an updated request for the step-by-step renovation of the Moy Medical Office building. Initially, the board approved a similar matter for this in 2019 for $1.86 million and approved contracts for more than $1.5 million. So then COVID stopped us cold and we didn't do these renovations. Again, as part of the step-by-step renovation, we determined during COVID that it would be better for endocrinology to be on the first floor with their internal medicine colleagues rather than on the ground level. And as part of another matter approved by the board, that was done. So this revision now is to do the ground floor for a center for women's health and a pelvic wellness center, all related to women's health, for a little bit more money, $2.155 million. And on page L2 are the various subcontracts that need to be approved for that. And it's all non-appropriated funds as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions? If not, is there a motion to approve committee item 3?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Madam Secretary, would you perform the roll call?
Curtis,
Yes.
Odell. Yes. Simmons,
Yes. Motion passes. Committee item 4 proposes award of contract for the construction of new Woodland Hall parking lot at SIU. Vice Chancellor Taylor, will you present this item?
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This matter awards contracts in the amount of $1,885,687 to build the new Woodland Hall parking lot on the SIU campus. On April 28, 2022, the SIU Board of Trustees approved the project and the budget to resurface, rebuild various parking lots and parking roadways, construct parking lot H, and also Woodland Hall, and to install updated lighting. These will be LED lightings, by the way. The project specified that the construction of the new Woodland Hall would occur in the initial phase in order to facilitate the use of Woodland Hall for construction of the new health science building project. It also specified that the construction will be completed in the fall of 2022. The approved estimated budget of the total project is $9,140,000. Will be funded from bond proceeds, and debt service payments will be repaid with parking fees. The estimated design, construction, contingency costs for the new Woodland Hall parking lot is $2,174,155. Bids were received on June 8th and 9th and were very favorable. When awarding the contracts as requested, a summary of the bids we received is attached for review. The Chancellor and Vice Chancellor of Administration, SIU, have recommended this matter to the President. We appreciate the consideration in this matter.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Vice Chancellor Taylor? Not, I'll take a motion to approve committee item 4.
so moved.
Second. Then moved and seconded. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Curtis,
Yes.
Odell. Yes. Simmons,
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes. Committee item 5. Proposes the naming of the Grand Bouchard Transportation Education Center at SIUC. Chancellor Lane, would you present this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am honored and really excited to have both Glenn and Joe here with us today as I read this item. Been honored to work with Chairman Gilbert President Mahoney and the University Naming Committee to bring this matter to the board for consideration of the renaming of the Transportation Education Center as the Glenn Pashard Transportation Education Center. From my earliest visits here or being here in Carbondale, I've heard a lot about Glenn Pashard and his impact on SIU Carbondale, on the SIU system, and the Southern Illinois region as a whole. His relationship with SIU is unique. He first came to know SIU as a student where he would earn 3 degrees. His lifetime of engagement with the university included representing SIU as an Illinois state senator and U.S. congressman. He later worked as vice chancellor for administration, served as chairman of the SIU Board of Trustees, and as the president of the SIU system. He was instrumental in a number of projects and initiatives that continue to be felt by our students, our faculty, our staff, and communities to this day. One of his signature accomplishments, and one that is easily attributable to his political power and savvy, is the state's investment to build a new SIU Transportation Education Center at the Southern Illinois Airport. Because of Dr. Pashard's direct involvement in securing the funding to make this building happen, and because it houses some of the most successful signature programs of the university, it is fitting to recommend this building to be known as the Glenn Pashard Transportation Education Center. Again, and thank Glenn and Joe for being here today, and congratulate you both on all your accomplishments. Glenn, I know you couldn't do any of this without Joe by your side. So with that, I would like to submit to the board.
Thank you, Chancellor Lane. I just want to say congratulations, and it's going to be an honor to watch this take place today. And I would like to make the motion to approve this item out of committee if there's a second.
I second.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
Curtis,
Yes.
Odell. Yes. Simmons.
Yes. If there's no other business before the A&D committee, we stand at recess.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Before we begin with the Academic Matters Committee meeting, Dr. Bouchard, would you like to make just a short, brief comment? And congratulations on this wonderful tribute to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I want to thank you for this honor. My family and I deeply appreciate it. To have my name on a building which houses 2 of the finest job creation schools in America, aviation technology and automotive technology, and nearly every student has a good, high-paying job before they even graduate, is something I can point to with pride to my grandchildren and their grandchildren. But I know a man in a building only gets there through the work of a team. I have been blessed to be a part of a board which has always held the interest of this university to the highest standards, and an administrative team, Dr. Stuckey, Dr. Haller, Dr. Sarvala, Dr. John Jackson, Paula Keith, and Dave Gross, without whose help we could never have achieved the goal of constructing this beautiful building. Thank you for this honor. I really appreciate it. And I want to say one other thing, Mr. Chairman. I was young when Senator Gilbert worked with President Morris and Paul Powell and Clyde Choate to take a small teachers college to a great research university. And you know what team effort means because you grew up in it. And I also want to say to you, Mr. President, and I think I speak on behalf of thousands of alumni throughout this country, thank you for the tremendous effort that you and Chancellor Lane and now Chancellor Minor are putting forward to make this an even greater university. We really appreciate your efforts. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Dr. Sharp, for those kind words. It was interesting. Trustee Simmons last night at dinner asked me kind of something I wanted to do, or, in my role here and kind of my longer term legacy. And I've always felt in these roles, you want to do things that have an impact far beyond your time in the role. And I think what you've done with the Transportation Education Center, the impact that has on SIUC, we clearly did that and have an impact that will last for a very long time. And so thank you for what you've done here. And this is really an appropriate way of honoring your contribution to that facility and what it's done really for SIU. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, the last committee meeting is the Academic Matters Committee meeting. I'm going to ask Dr. Sharma to lead the meeting today. Please proceed, Dr. Sharma.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The meeting of the Academic Matters Committee is now in session. And the first agenda is on the announcement. Vice President Gupchup, are there any announcements?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sharma. I have a few announcements. I'd like to update the board that we've appointed 15 implementation teams to implement and monitor our system strategic plan. The Center for Predictive Analytics at SIUE has been working with all the teams to move forward with our strategic plan, and we look forward to presenting the work of the teams soon to the board. I would also like to announce an exciting project related to one of our implementation teams. The SIU system has been selected as one of 4 systems nationwide to participate in the National Association of System Heads Curricular Flexibility Network Improvement Community. The other systems are the University of Kentucky, the Texas State System, and the University of Hawaii system. Essentially, we will work with National Association of System Heads and the Carnegie Foundation to increase curricular flexibility and flexible pathways, credentials, and shared degrees across the SIU system. We will share experiences and learn from the other university systems and from the Carnegie Foundation, and we'll have mentors to help us. Our first meeting will be in October 2022. The 2 team leaders for this are Wendell Williams at SIUE and Janice Joplin at Wendell Williams at SIUC and Janice Joplin at SIUE. The last announcement I have is another very exciting announcement. During the past meetings, I've mentioned the Illinois Tutoring Initiative and how the SIU system is working together on this project. I would like to introduce the leaders on our campuses, Dr. Natasha Flowers from SIUE and Dr. Christy McIntyre from SIUC, 2 excellent leaders and educators, and they're real stars, who will provide you with an update on the project. Dr. Flowers and Dr. McIntyre are on Zoom, and they've been doing an awesome job to educate the underrepresented students who have suffered during COVID with tutoring. I'll turn it over to Dr. Flowers and Dr. McIntyre.
Thank you. It is an honor to be here today to address you, President Mahoney, and Board Chair Gilbert, chancellors, and other board members. We thank you for this opportunity to share the work that we've been doing. And if you don't mind, I'm going to try to share my screen just to do a brief overview, and then Dr. Flowers will close out with some specifics for us. So hopefully this works. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm going to keep it just on this mode so that we can see one another as well. The Illinois Tutoring Initiative is one, as it states here, of 4 state pillars designed in conjunction with the Illinois P20 Council's development of a learning renewal resource guide to support the learning and social emotional well-being of students in the wake of the pandemic. It's meant to help our students that lost some ground potentially during the pandemic. And it's a collaboration of institutions of higher education and school districts of need in 6 regions across the state. And I'll show you a map in just a moment. High impact tutoring practices are used in this model. We'll talk about that as well. And we are training tutors for our K-12 students, specifically 3rd through 8th and then 9th through 12 in math and science. And we're pulling from among our teacher ed candidates, higher education students, and other community partners like retired teachers throughout our region. This is a combination of in-person and online tutoring regionally, and they do receive training and support. These are the 6 regions that are participating and the universities that are currently participating. You'll notice that we cover 2 of the regions. We are in both Region 5 and 6 here. We share Region 6 with Southeastern Illinois College. We are tutoring in 3rd through 8th grade for reading and mathematics, and high school mathematics is online tutoring. And then we're working for 14 weeks in the fall semester and 14 weeks in the spring semester. Dr. Flowers was able to get in a little bit of tutoring this summer as well, which is a bonus. The high impact tutoring practices that we mentioned earlier, national research data shows from the National Student Support Accelerator that if you are tutoring and you're wanting to put together a program that will have great effects, then you'll schedule sessions 3 times a week. You'll build sustained, strong relationships between your tutor and your tutees. You will have close monitoring of the students' gains in their knowledge and skills, that you'll align with the current school's curriculum, which is what we aim to do, and that there will be oversight of the tutors. Carbondale is partnering with 4 districts. We are partnering with Carbondale Elementary School, Murfreesboro Community School District, Heron School District, and Cobden School District. And we are currently employing our tutors. We've been able to hire a coordinator, which we're thrilled to do, and I know Natasha is as well. So I'm going to turn it to her to share her progress on her side.
Thank you. You are muted.
My apologies.
No problem.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. McIntyre, for the presentation. And I am also grateful to be here today. Thank you, Board of Trustees and President Mahoney. I do want to give a special thanks to my dean, and who had faith in me to coordinate on this end. And I also want to thank Vice President Gupchuk, who has been quite the advocate for both campuses. We couldn't have asked for a better champion in terms of navigating systems around human resources and so forth. So thank you so much. And the partnership with both campuses, Dr. McIntyre and I are glued at the hip. Far away, but very close. So thank you for that. I want to just take a few minutes to give some update on the summer program. The initiative, as you can see, is a highly structured project, and the intention is to serve students who deserve the highest and deepest levels of support before, during, and after the height of the pandemic. And so as we all, as educators, continue to advocate for culturally competent educators and sustained equity in schools, we must take full advantage of state, university, school partnerships that prioritize our children and our communities. And I feel strongly that this initiative allows us to combine relationship building, engagement, community-based communal knowledge with academic support. For us at SIUE, we will work with, and we did work with Cahokia School District over the summer, and I'll speak to that in just a minute. We are planning to launch programs in Collinsville School District, and I am thrilled to say that East St. Louis School District has recently signed on to collaborate with us as well. During the summer, we were able to launch a small-scale program with Cahokia as part of their summer school. They had students who were participating, and we were able to work with students that they prioritized for this short-term, 4th graders through 8th grade. And we were we were able to provide free one-on-one and small group tutoring. I'm excited to say that the team of tutors came from the region, so our community, and then also students from our campus, as Dr. McIntyre mentioned. We had teacher candidates, future special educators, future elementary educators who wanted to do this work and support young learners during the summer. And I am also thrilled to say that we had several tutors with expertise and an interest in nurturing our students' mathematical problem solving. And I was thrilled. I wasn't expecting that, honestly, and it was a bonus for us this summer. As we look forward to the future, which is right around the corner, we hope to have up to 4 districts. So we're working with another who is trying to, consider whether or not they can start in the fall. And we're hoping to serve upwards 400 students this semester and in the spring. So I'll stop there.
Thank you. Do you want to say, go ahead, Dr. McIntyre.
I was just going to say in summation, I think it's awesome that the SIU system together, it's been wonderful to come together collaboratively with Dr. Flowers and Dr. Gubchak and to work on this initiative together. We'll be serving over 800 children in regions 5 and 6 with tutoring, which is wonderful. So we're thrilled to be able to be a part of this project. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Dr. McIntyre and Dr. Flowers. That ends my announcements, but I just wanted to yield my time to these stars who are doing something so noble that I wanted everyone to hear about it, Dr. Sharma.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gupta and Dr. McIntyre, Dr. Flowers. This is an excellent program. I'm sure you are giving a lot of time to these students, they will benefit. This tutoring is very popular in Asian countries. When I was growing up, and China, India, and students greatly benefit. They greatly benefit, and I really like it. I really like it. Yes. Anything the board can do or president's office can do, we will be happy to help you. Please let us know. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of April 28 meetings. So is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
I think the motion is moved and seconded.
Motion.
Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call.
Brew? Yes. Hightower?
Yes.
Souger? Sharma?
Yes. The motion passes. Thank you. The next item is the approval of new programs, reasonable and moderate extensions, approval of off-campus program locations, and academic program eliminations and suspensions, July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Vice President Gupta, will you please speak on this item?
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Item H in the board materials, the annual listing of academic program changes is provided herewith for your approval. It should be in your, it is in your board materials. This includes the submission of 2 tables to the Illinois Board of Higher Education on behalf of Southern Illinois University Edwardsville and Southern Illinois University Carbondale for approval of new programs, reasonable and moderate extensions, approval of off-campus program locations, and academic program eliminations and suspensions for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022.
Is there a motion to approve committee item number 3?
So moved. Second.
Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call.
Brew? Yes. Hightower?
Yes.
Souger? Yes. Sharma?
Yes. The motion passes. The next item is the presentation, program assessment and medical student scholarship and research Dr. Gupchuk, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. It is my pleasure today to introduce Drs. Deborah Clayman, Andrea Broadmeyer Fleming, and student Jack Moore, a third-year medical student, who will present about the programmatic assessment and medical student scholarship and research at the School of Medicine. Dr. Deborah Clayman is a Senior Associate Dean for Education and Curriculum and Chair of the Department of Medical Education and Professor of Psychiatry and Medical Education at the SIU School of Medicine. She is an internationally renowned researcher, teacher, and scholar in disciplines of medical education and adult education. The focus of her educational scholarship includes curriculum design, student assessment, longitudinal performance assessment, diagnostic reasoning, remediation, and stress management for learners. Dr. Andrea Broadmeyer Fleming is Associate Professor of both medical microbiology, immunology, and cell biology, and of obstetrics and gynecology. She is the Director of the Year 2 Medical Student Curriculum, and she is a past chair of the Research Policy Committee. In collaboration with others, she successfully led the effort to increase involvement of medical students and resident physicians in research at the School of Medicine. One of the focuses of her personal research is the study of individual microbiome profiles to modify immune function in obstetric, gynecologic, and cancer disorders. Jack Moore is a third-year medical student who hails from Fremont, Illinois. Before joining the School of Medicine, he received a bachelor's degree from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, with a major in molecular biology and cell biology and minors in psychology and chemistry. Dr. Clayman, please.
All right.
The floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about two things today. The new Research Scholars Program for medical students, actually instituted, brought up, created, and implemented by medical students with the help of faculty. And then we're going to talk about a new programmatic assessment evaluation system that we're using at the school. So Andrea and Jack are going to talk about the first part, and then I'll pick up with programmatic assessment.
Thank you very much for giving us your time today. We are really excited to launch this program at the end of last February. This program falls underneath the leadership of the Education Committee. And it is an initiative that I will say the students spearheaded, and with the support of several faculty at the School of Medicine, we were able to launch this and make these opportunities available to all of our students on both campuses, Carbondale and Springfield. So the goal of the Research Scholars Pathway is to train our developing physicians to also engage in science and understand how research impacts the medical profession. So our goals are listed here: provide consistent training in multiple aspects of performing research, create a venue to increase the students' accessibility to research experiences by using the existing research programs that we have on our campuses, formally acknowledge the efforts and contributions of medical students to the research mission of SIU School of Medicine, which you can see is below, and effectively train physician scientists who devote regular components of their profession to seeking new knowledge about health, disease, delivery of patient care through ongoing research. And you can see in the time of our pandemic that this was a great time to show just how research and medicine merge. What is a physician scientist? So sadly, less than 2% of physicians actually classify themselves as physician scientists. And there is a huge growth by NIH to increase these numbers through different programs available to physician scientists. This is a critical for the reputation and success of academic centers. So what sets SIU apart is that we have merged training of our medical students with the providing patient health care, and also merging them with our ongoing research programs. Our long-term goal of this pathway is to sustain our research enterprise, to support young physician scientists like Jack himself by being more selective, by being more strategic and collaborative and generous and nurturing the careers of our medical students at SIU School of Medicine. And our promise to the students is that we will develop and support programs that accelerate their career development so that they develop these skills of being very creative so that they can launch their careers with already a head start against all of the peers that are coming out of other medical schools. So this is Jack's perspective from a student.
Thanks for allowing me to be here and speak on behalf of this program, everybody. Just to kind of distill my thoughts into basically a one-liner, I think this program really stands as a testament to the School of Medicine's focus on innovation. And to speak more to that, the future of medicine comes down to evidence-based practice. Gone are the days of kind of shooting from the hip and making decisions on what felt right. Now, a lot of clinical decisions need to have evidence-based support in order to uphold them and bolster them to your colleagues. There's also room for a more comprehensive assessment of individuals based on all of their traits and abilities. And I think this is something that Dr. Clayman will speak to as we focus on the programmatic assessment. But simply, medical students in the past were evaluated solely on their academic abilities, not looking at things like research, professionalism, and the list goes on. But by incorporating this program, we now allow students' research and all the performance aspects to be included in the assessments of these individuals. It also creates a structured framework into research pathways for non-traditional students or simply students who may not have had the most access to research in their undergraduate career. So what I've spoken with some of my peers about the program and also decided to incorporate their thoughts as far as what the program means to them. So ultimately, the program creates the opportunity to receive university recognition. This mainly gains importance as the focus of competitive residency applications is shifting with the step 1 exam transitioning to pass-fail. A lot of students are fighting this feeling of wanting to chase their passions, but also not do something wrong in order to match. Matching is a pretty stressful endeavor for almost every single medical student. You feel like you have to very carefully tread the waters and fill out all the extracurriculars, all the research, get everything just right in order to go where you want to go. What this program does, however, is it allows you to have that longitudinal commitment to research, even though your interests may change or things may go wrong, simply in the terms of if you submit one of your publications to a nationally recognized journal, and it may not get accepted into the #1 journal of your choice, but if a second or third line journal is still willing to accept your publication, you can meet the requirements for this program and still maintain that longitudinal credit. It also warrants opportunities to socialize in medicine, namely through student interest groups. There's now a research interest group on campus and a medical education interest group as well. Each of these groups meets approximately once a month. They have different content discussed at each meeting, but it still allows an academic environment with socialization in medicine. There's also the annual retreat of the school and the teaching and learning symposiums where students present their research projects from the past year. And there's also community-based research projects. For example, I'm currently participating in a trauma-informed care research project. We're interviewing with physicians across departments throughout the entire university, seeing how they choose, seeing what trauma-informed care means to them, how they implement it, and what tools they need to continue to further that installation. It also allows access to additional mentors and faculty. I speak on behalf of myself and most of the medical students that we don't get access to a lot of the research faculty at the school. We see a lot of the academics and we go to a lot of lectures, but some of the faculty that perform research, we only find them if we look for them or if they're specifically looking for a student. What this program does is opens access to those individuals to build relationships with them and build professional relationships in research. So.
Yep. So in summary, a basis of this pathway, and I will say that there are additional pathways that are coming after this initial one that has been launched, is that we are going to create a framework of students that can be personalized to them, help them reach their goals and finding out what their residency programs they will be competitive for and successful in. Improve the training. I was just telling Mr. Curtis earlier that this really hones in on not just learning medicine, but becoming a critical thinker. Patients don't read textbooks. And we find that a lot in research that things don't go according to plan. And so this allows them to develop that, as Jack said, in a safe space. It gives them recognition for their accomplishments and that the university recognizes this. And so not just with getting the metrics that makes them successful with their publications and their presentations, but actually an acknowledgement from the school that they participated in this program and met all the rigorous demands of it. And then, as Jack said, more opportunities to socialize and get to know what all our campuses offer them. And not just their training as a student, but also their training as a critical thinker. And then mentorship and scholarship. This is very important because their careers may lead back to SIU, but it also may lead to several other academic institutions. And having these strong network will be very important. I'm excited to say that we do have one of our current medical students taking a leave of absence to pursue the NIH Physician Scientist Training Program in Bethesda, Maryland. And that student's research was honed here at the SIU School of Medicine. And so with that, I believe that this pathway is going to be very successful. We have about a quarter, 25% of students both in the year 1 and year 2 courses that are currently eligible and are pursuing this. And it also provides an excellent recruiting mechanism for students to seek out and choose SIU School of Medicine as the place to pursue their training.
All right, and now for something completely different. As you know, SIU, thank you for that wonderful introduction, by the way, is internationally known in medical education and medical education innovation. And this is our most recent innovation. It's called programmatic assessment. It is not program evaluation. It is programmatic assessment. It was started by a medical school in Maastricht in Europe. And in the United States, there's only ourselves and one other, the small Cleveland Clinic, 32 student medical school that uses it. The idea is that the assessment is focused on learning outcomes and improving individual performance rather than pass, fail, pass, fail, pass, fail without an overall look at the student's holistic performance. Next slide, please. So what does that mean? It means we're assessing students for learning, not assessing of learning. So we are basically focusing most of our time and energy on formative feedback. Okay, you did this. Let's look at what was bad and what was good and work on improving. All 4 years now have advisors. So after every exam, the advisors meet with the students and work through what went well, what didn't. We're also looking at things way beyond multiple choice questions: critical thinking skills, professionalism, communication skills, ability to work with peers, and obviously working with patients. So we're accumulating multiple data points. In each unit, we have at least 20 data points, including the multiple choice exam that we're looking at for each student and their progress. Next slide. So it looks like this. Rather than one exam, one summative score, we're gathering many points. Lots of pixels make for a better picture. So we don't actually decide on a summative evaluation of the student until we've seen the student's performance across an entire academic year. So here's an actual example. Student bombed the first examination of knowledge, got a red. We call them red, yellow, and greens. Terrible performance. Advisor met with the student, revealed the student had multiple stressors, including the death of a loved one, COVID, et cetera, during the progress up until taking the exam. Although the student had all gone green, done very well in patient satisfaction, critical thinking, professionalism, all the other measures that we take. In the following 2 units, the student had green scores on the examinations, the multiple choice tests, as well as continued green scores on everything else. When the student competency committee met, we looked at this student's entire record and decided that this student showed great improvement all the way through. We took into consideration the student's struggles at the beginning and decided to promote that student on to the next year without requiring further remediation exams. And that student has done extremely well in the following year. So that is the overview of what we're doing with programmatic assessment. I hope you have some questions. So we're going to finish right now.
Well, I would like to make a comment and then I will ask other trustees to make a comment. I really excited about both the new initiative, School of Medicine, and you have put forward today. I must add that research component is an excellent idea where students will greatly benefit. Not only the items you listed in matching and other things, it will stimulate their minds in different ways and challenge the students. Being a researcher whole life, I really like this idea. Regarding the program assessment, that is certainly, I agree, is much better than individual units or courses. So I have been familiar with both of these things and gone through in life. So School of Medicine, what it has proposed today is excellent and outstanding. So thank you, Dr. Fleming, Mr. Moore, and Dr. Clement for presenting these two ideas. The students will greatly benefit, and good luck for going forward on these. Now, any comments from other trustees, please?
Thank you, Chair Sharma. I'm so impressed with the work that you're doing, and I know I've said for years, we have a national reputation here, but in education, we have an international reputation, this medical school. What Dr. Clayman and Drs. Bromberg Fleming presented today is nothing short of amazing. But Dr. Bromberg Fleming mentioned one thing. We have a student that was going to enter a fourth year, got accepted to the National Institute of Health to do a one-year fellowship. Think about 150 some medical schools in this country, and the Harvards and the Hopkins and all those places, in the competitive nature, just taking a few students. That wouldn't have happened without Andrea Bromberg Fleming mentoring this student even before she started medical school, and integrating that into her curriculum throughout medical school. And it's a wonderful compliment to the student, but even more to the faculty. So congratulations, Andrea, for that phenomenal accomplishment.
I would also like to congratulate Dean Cruz for the great leadership he is providing to the School of Medicine. And I have a question probably for him or Dr. Fleming too. And going forward, once you have proposed this research idea, is the School of Medicine thinking a joint degree, MD/PhD?
Actually, we started having those discussions just recently. We're doing a new umbrella graduate program now that we've combined our basic science departments in Carbondale. We're moving along the same route in Springfield as well. And we're starting the process of getting that approved through the system before it goes to the IBHE. And with that umbrella program, we think we'd be in a much better position to think about that MD PhD program.
Excellent. Glad to hear that. Congratulations.
And you know, while I've got the floor here, I just have to say that compared to 5 years ago, the number of medical students and resident physicians who have had publications and done national presentations has almost tripled. And Dr. Bromberg Fleming, Dr. Don Torrey were really instrumental in moving that forward and getting all of that done. And I think you've heard before that we're one of 2 medical student schools in the world that has the Stellar Award from the largest medical education group in the world, Association of Medical Education of Europe. It's things like programmatic assessment, medical simulation are the thing, and others. I mean, we've got more than that, but that puts us, you know, right there at the top in those things. And so thanks to Dr. Clayman for leading those efforts too. So thank you.
Thank you, Dean Cruz, for your leadership.
I just want to say thank you as well. I think it's fantastic what it does for the students, but also what you do for patients. I have a child who has multiple rare health issues. He's actually treating at NIH. And I was shocked by that 2% number, that only 2% of doctors also do research. So thank you both to the students. What you're doing is amazing. And thank you for the patients that you're going to help. So.
And our leadership team is a combination of basic scientists and clinicians. My co-chair is Dr. Vidya Sundareshan, and she has started the research interest group. So the students see it from both sides, how clinicians work with basic scientists, how a clinician can do both. And so they really do get a full spectrum of the opportunities that can be awarded to them by pursuing research as part of their physician training.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
If there is no other business before the Academic Matters Committee, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair Sharman. Now we're going to take a 10-minute recess. I move that we recess for 10 minutes, so before the full board meeting begins. So we'll take a 10-minute recess. Welcome to the Southern University Board of Trustees for a board meeting. I will call the meeting to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Brew, present. Curtis,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Present.
Hightower,
Yes.
Bill, present. Souter, present. Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons, Tedrick. A quorum is established.
Okay, thank you. I would like to welcome new trustees Salver and new student trustees Dorcas Brew and Haley Odell to the first full board meeting. I'd also like to announce that during the public portion of yesterday's executive session meeting, and with majority of a quorum vote in agreement to discuss the item of chair appointments per board bylaws, I made appointments. I appointed trustee Salver as a member of the Academic Matters Committee, and she replaced me as a member of the Audit Committee. As the board's also appointed as the board's alternate representative to the Southern University at Edwardsville Foundation, and she replaced trustee Hightower as the board's representative to the SIU Edwardsville Alumni Association, and therefore trustee Hightower will become an alternate representative to the Alumni Association. Further, I appointed trustee Brew to serve as a member of the Academic Matters Committee and Audit Committee, and trustee Odell was appointed to serve as a member of the Finance Committee and Architectural and Design Committee. I would also like to announce that during yesterday's executive session meeting, the board approved for release executive session minutes, excerpts from the period December 2021 through April 2022 and these will be posted on the board's website tomorrow for public inspection. The next item of business is approval of the minutes of the meeting of the board held April 28th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Whittington, please call the roll.
Rose? Yes. Curtis?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Yes.
Hightower?
Yes.
Odell?
Yes.
Valger?
Yes.
Sharma?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes. Motion is approved. Minutes are approved. The next is the trustee reports. Are there any trustee reports? I don't think there are any. The next is for the committee reports. I'll report that the executive committee has not met between board meetings. Our next item of business is the executive officer's report. President Mahoney, will you present a report on behalf of the SIU system?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Gilbert. There's a few things I was going to update you all on, and then I'm going to follow Dr. Grubchup's lead and let somebody who's doing really important work do most of the presenting today. So I'll get to that in just a second. A few things. Dr. Grubchup had mentioned the strategic plan and the 15 implementation teams that are beginning their work. That's critical to actually implementing the team. I think for his leadership and really organizing all of that. But we also, I think, recognize we need someone who's really doing this on a regular basis. And so we're right now focused on hiring a research fellow in the Center for Predictive Analytics at Edwardsville that'll really help us both with assessing how well we're doing, keeping the implementation teams on track, and really implementing the strategic plan the way that we would like. And so hope to have an announcement on that position fairly soon. We're not presenting a budget today, but just a preview, we will present that in September. As is true in most of higher education, budgets continue to be tight. But we have put a priority on increasing salaries, and I believe we will again propose similar salary increases to what we did last year. This will be the first time in a long time we've had consistent salary increases across the system. Again, we'd like to continue to do that, do more in the future, but that's obviously tied to continued state support as well as continued enrollment increases. But again, that is a priority for us. Also, I let you know last week that there were some adjustments to the salaries based on historical inequities at Carbondale that Chancellor Lane led the effort on. And so I thank him for doing that and addressing that long-term issue. Relative to COVID, you saw the executive order from the governor last week has now provided us more flexibility on how to handle testing and other mitigations. So we will not be continually testing those who, or most of those who are not vaccinated, but we will continue to monitor what's happening. Just to assure you, all of the trustees, we continue to meet every week and talk about this every week. And if things change, and we're fortunate to have Dean Cruz as part of that group who continually is looking at that information, looking at the data and providing advice on anything we might have to do to adjust. So if we have to adjust again, we will, but we feel we're ready for the fall semester at this point. The SIU Systems Initiative Foundation, which was approved at one of our previous board meetings, right now we're putting together the board for that. It will be a 7-member board committee. As we've talked about before, one of the critical things with this system-wide foundation is not to be competing with either the Edwardsville or Carbondale foundations. And so as we discussed board membership, of the 7 members, 1 will be a member of this board so that you will at least have someone from here will have involvement. But we also want at least 1 member of the foundation, both at Carbondale and at Edwardsville, as part of that 7-member board there. So again, everyone will know what everyone else is doing and we won't have any conflicts, I think, if we go about it that way. So we're excited to get that. Once we have the board established, then we can move forward with submitting the paperwork on formally establishing that foundation. And now I'm turning it over to someone else. So I'm going to please present our Vice President for Anti-Racism, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Dr. Sheila Caldwell. Just want to say before she gets started, she gets set up. Dr. Caldwell came to us just a little over a year ago and has provided great leadership at our system level as far as our efforts relative to anti-racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Really has gotten all of the people who were in those roles across the system working together. In fact, they had a retreat back in January and they're having one again in a couple of weeks in August to make sure we're all on the same page and working together. She's also providing leadership at the state level. She's involved in the Funding Formula Commission and also is organizing a conference for across the state to kind of bring all of the diversity officers from different institutions. And so working with IBHE on that. So establishing us as a leader in the state in our efforts relative to anti-racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Today, she's going to present a couple of things. One is our inclusive language guide that was worked on across the system with everybody involved with that, but also the results of our campus climate survey that we conducted in the spring. So Dr. Caldwell.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mahoney. I just want to make sure.
Thank you, Dr. Mahoney, for sharing time today, Chairman and Board of Trustees. I'm glad to be here, and it's been a joy to work with Dr. Mahoney and the chancellors. And today I would like to present two things to you today. And actually, I would like to, yes, it's no problem. So I want to take a few moments to actually share about the Inclusive Language Guide. And one of the things that has been very beneficial is collaborating with the campus communities and actually being responsive. So this guide came about because Ms. Heather Neifel from the Edwardsville campus and Kim Redfield from the Carbondale campus came and said, we would like to develop an inclusive language guide specifically for marketing. And we had a conversation about expanding it past the marketing department and actually creating a useful tool that would benefit all stakeholders, faculty, staff, and students. And so what we did was and then we included Dr. Prakash from the School of Medicine. So one of the things that's unique about our inclusive guide, and you look at other models throughout the nation, is that we specifically have language as it dignifies people in the medical community. So we have language that's been adopted from the American Medical Association. So one of the things I wanted to mention is that the guide is aligned with our core values to affirm and appreciate multiple perspectives. We wanted to make sure that we promote bias-free language in our written and verbal form. And then we also decided that we had specific variables that we wanted to address. So these variables are also aligned with what we do across the system, looking at age, person with disabilities, intersectionality, and so forth. Some of the principles that we decided to come up with, and I want to highlight some of these principles, is that we wanted to appropriately address all people in a particular categories, again, as far as how you elevate them when you communicate about them. We also focus on intersectional identities, and what I mean by that is somebody, for example, who identifies as LGBTQIA and who also has a disability. Their identity might be nuanced in society, and we wanted to make sure that we acknowledge that and again dignify those particular diverse communities as well. Also, the document will be evolving, so we recognize that language is fluid and it is constantly being updated. And so with that, we have a committee, that particular committee that helped implement this will also look at it on an annual basis to make sure that our verbiage is accurate and that we're communicating well to our campus constituents. And then the last thing is that it is not prescriptive and it is aligned with freedom of speech principles. So this is not designed to say you can say this and you can't say that. Our jobs is to teach students how to think well and not to instruct them on what to think. And so we basically wanted to provide high impact practices that would be a model that would help them in those endeavors. So these are the end users. We have marketing and communications, again, faculty, staff, and students. And now, Ben, if you can assist, I just want to quickly let you actually see the guide as it's now presented. I do want to also give a special thanks to the Edwardsville design team. We gave them all of the data and they really did an excellent job with designing this. So as you can see, we could just keep going down. This is designed to be an interactive guide. We have our welcome. We actually specifically talk about our principles, land acknowledgement statement to recognize and respect indigenous populations. And now if you can click on immigration status, I just want to give an example of how this works. So we specifically talk about language that is dehumanizing, language that is bias-free, and then this is an interactive model. So oftentimes instead of alien, illegal, alien, if you click to flip, it says use undocumented, and then it actually gives more details about how to do that. Again, if you're looking at the immigration population, she speaks English as a second language, emerging bilingual. If we flip it, English in addition to other languages. She is learning English. Her primary language is Spanish. And so again, we don't want to promote deficit-based perspectives. We want to show these are the things that enhance and elevate the individual. So I just wanted to share that as an example that it's interactive and it's an excellent guide. And so we have all those characteristics, and this will be available to the campus community. So if we can downsize this, and go back to the presentation. Thank you, Ben. So our deadline to create this was the end of June, and we met that deadline. We will disseminate this when all of our students return to campus on August 22nd. We want to make sure that they have access to it. And again, we will update the document on an annual basis. And so these are the committee members. And so as you can see with this particular group, we have constituents from Edwardsville, Carbondale, and the School of Medicine, who all contributed to this guide and gave their expertise. So again, I think this is beneficial for the entire campus community, and I wanted you to be aware of that. The next thing that I think will also be very worthwhile that we're going to spend time on, and this should be in your packet, you have received a copy of the executive summary, and I will now be sharing some critical findings from our campus climate survey. One of the things that I would like you to note, yes, with our campus climate survey is that I'm specifically presenting from the system office, the Carbondale campus, the School of Medicine, Edwardsville. Even though the data is aligned, they will actually also continue to unpack their data. And I know Carbondale has already composed an executive summary that captures their data in an excellent fashion, and other schools will follow suit. So again, as we talk about, one moment, the purpose of the campus climate survey. Now, this campus climate survey was administered from March 14th to April 15th. So we took about a month to administer it. We solicited and partnered with Viewfinder Campus Climate Survey. And one of the reasons why we did that is because before we even started the survey, people were concerned, if I share information, will it be anonymous, will it be confidential? And the best way to ensure that was to use a third-party vendor. Now, this survey was sent out to 20,000 students and 7,000 faculty, staff, and administrators. With that, we got a response rate of 52% from employees and 18% from students. And so we exceeded the employee benchmark because typically they ask for 20%, and then we were, 50%, and for students, they like to see 20%, and we had 18%. So we were pleased with those numbers overall. The specific groups that we focused on in the survey, the diverse constituents were international faculty, racial and ethnic groups, people with disabilities, the LGBTQIA community, and veterans. And I also like to say that we receive robust information. We have about 40 reports as a result of this. When we look at filtered reports, comparison reports, the raw data, and over 500 comments, qualitative narrative that we were able to develop patterns and themes to also address to improve organizational effectiveness and the campus climate. So when we think specifically about our respondents, if you look at the blue bar, this was, again, I mentioned how we had the 52% of employees who participated, and 18% of the respondents were students, 52% identified as male, it's female, and 47% were male, and 2% identified as non-conforming. As far as racial, ethnic demographics, I want to make sure you're aware of this because it provides context as far as who responded to the survey. 7% of African Americans responded, 10% of Asian Americans, 3% Hispanic, and 77% white, 3% multiracial. When we look at the LGBTQIA community, 22% of our students identify as LGBTQIA. If you were to look at that as a demographic, that's significant, 22%. 7%, between 7 and 8% for faculty and staff members also identified as LGBTQIA. I also want to mention across the board, 4% of our faculty, staff, and students identified as veteran, and about 7% identified as disabled, and they selected psychological and medical conditions as the top reasons for their disability. And so now I want to move on and specifically talk about the feedback we got as far as data from perceptions of welcome. So if you just look at the bar graph, and I specifically want to direct your attention to the blue graph, the Hispanic faculty members felt the least welcome on the campus. In fact, I think their numbers were 31% compared to about 65% for Asian and African Americans, and the white community, 80% of white individuals who reported felt welcome on our campus. When we look at staff members, I would say actually students, and I want to specifically go to the gray bar, African American students specifically felt the least welcome, followed by Asian, and then Hispanic, and then white. In the middle, we have the orange bar specifically for faculty members, and we asked, how do you view SIU's commitment to anti-racism? And again, African American faculty were the least to report that SIU was committed to anti-racism. And again, if you look at the orange bar, the white faculty said that we were the most committed based on their perceptions. And it's also worth noting that when we specifically talk about anti-racism, those questions were developed and vetted by me, Dr. Mahoney, and the Diversity Advisory Council. So we were able to customize this report, and we specifically added questions on anti-racism. Another question that I added to the survey is, do you feel equal to your white counterparts? And there was a notable difference. More than half of the respondents from racialized ethnic backgrounds reported that they did not feel equal to their white counterparts and that they did notice differential treatment. When we think about the international population, 64% of international respondents felt welcome on campus, but then when you ask them if they felt welcome on the outside of the community, they reported lower feelings of feeling welcome outside of the communities on the different respective campuses. So I actually just pretty much summarized some of that data, and you can look even more specifically. If you look in the lower corner, African-American and Black students was twice as likely to want to leave the campus compared to white students. Staff members of color reported lower levels of respect and unequal treatment to their white counterparts. Administrators and white employees felt most welcome among all groups. And when we think about administrators as a category, that is looking at across racial ethnic lines. So the administrators felt the most welcome regardless of race, most welcome on the campus. And then another category was specifically asking about religious and political expression. So in addition to religious and political expression, we also asked about gender identity, and we asked about other forms of oppression. And the lowest category among all of that was political expression. Only 40% of all of our students, faculty, and staff felt like they can express their political views. And then specifically, white faculty, staff, and students were the least likely of all of the racial groups to say that they felt comfortable expressing their political views. Now, in a little bit, I'm going to actually talk about recommendations and how we're going to deal with some of these issues that you're looking at today, but that's significant. Another report, I mentioned that we had over 40 reports. So we looked at institutions like Northern Illinois University, California, Panoma, as well as Ohio State University. Those were the three institutions of higher education that was aligned with our composition, and they were used as national benchmark reports for our data. So the reason why I want to actually go back to white faculty, staff, and students less likely feeling like they can express their political expression, on all of the campuses, the average was about 10%. We were double that. We were about 18% having conservative views on our campus. And that's not an issue. It's something that we definitely want to make sure that people do feel like they can have freedom of speech on the campus, and we're going to educate that broadly. But I wanted to bring that up. And I think it's also worth noting that one of the reasons why this was also lower is because many people just said they didn't feel like it was appropriate. And we don't disagree with that it may not always be appropriate to discuss your political and religious views. So I think that also contributes to that number being lower. But I think it's important to note that when we looked at the comments, the words that strung along quite often together was, I do not feel comfortable as a conservative Christian expressing my views on campus. And they were concerned that their peers, whether it be faculty, staff, or students, would shun them or misunderstand them. And we know that collegiality is very important in campus communities. And so that was one of the concerns. And so again, we are going to come up with strategies to address that. And if you look, the majority of our respondents do identify as Christian as the dominant religious group. But when they combine Christian and conservative, again, that discomfort was evident in the quantitative and qualitative data. And now I want to shift and share some highlights about bias and safety. So of all the different biases, the top three were bullying, race, and gender discrimination. Now, even though that was our top for our bias, when we looked at national data, we were not higher than those other peer institutions when it came to bias reporting. In fact, the number was on average 24%. 23% of our faculty and staff and administrators reported incidents of bullying. It's also important to know when we specifically talk about gender discrimination, that was found among the administrators. So if we want to glean further into that, for whatever reason, the women administrators, and we didn't see a lot of qualitative or quantitative information on that, but gender discrimination was high for women administrators. And then when we looked at people of color, race was also right up there with bullying as well. And then most of the bias offenses were committed within peer groups. So when we disaggregated the data based on peer groups, we saw that faculty members agreed. So we asked the question, have you experienced bias? Yes. Who committed the offense? If it was a faculty member, 70% of the offenses were committed by other faculty members. The same thing with students, the same thing with staff. It was committed within those peer groups, and that could be, again, the proximity and the interaction and high levels of engagement. So that was something worth noting. I also noticed when you disaggregated by peer group, and you asked the question, who is most likely in need of diversity training? Those peer groups said that they were the least likely. So when we asked faculty, they said, staff, administrators, search committees, they need diversity training more than me. If you ask students, they had everybody ahead of them. And I don't think that's inappropriate for students, that I do think that, staff, faculty, administrators, search committees should be more trained. But the same thing with staff, who needs it? And they rated themselves the lowest, and everybody else needs it more than I do. So that was common, and that was consistent across the institution. And then when we asked, why did you not, if you did experience bias, why did you not report it? And the top two reasons, again, across the board, was I was afraid to report due to nothing being done and fear of retaliation. So again, we have recommendations to change that. And when we disaggregated by students, specifically African-American and Hispanic students said, I did not report due to fear of racial isolation. They did not want to be the focus and become hyper visible and, maybe lose relationships or be centered in that case. But again, if people are not afraid, if they're afraid to report because nothing's going to be done, or they're afraid of retaliation or racial isolation, we will not be able to advance the campus climate in the way we need to. So we want to change those perceptions as well. And then when we spoke about safety, we rated fairly well. When we looked at lighting and all the other things that contribute to a safe environment, we did well nationally, and we did well as far as SIU perspective. The main thing that I want to point out is that 60%, and again, this was across the board, felt like they would feel safer if they could report anonymously out of concern for team members. And if I could just give examples, when we look at the news today, people say, well, I thought that person had an issue or mental concern. So we need a formal way to make sure that we protect people who people say have issues, but that we also want to create a safe environment so individuals can report anonymously out of concern. But that was another thing that people felt like this would make me feel safer if I could share concerns, mental concerns, physical concerns about peers. And again, I mentioned the 500 comments, that we wanted to distill those comments and really think about what themes and patterns came about. So these were some of the narrative themes. We have diversity fatigue, fairness in hiring and promotion, lack of belongingness, bias and racism, lack of appreciation for work, and inadequate salary and benefits. So when we think about diversity fatigue, we just saw several comments, again, faculty, staff, students, administrators, where people felt like all we do is talk about diversity. I mean, that's practically a verbatim comment. We talk about it too much. I'm tired of it. That could be more talk, less talk, more action. And so that was a common refrain that we heard, is that just the engagement in the conversations was wearing across the board. But then we also have as many comments about lack of belongingness, bias, and racism. So we see that there is a tension in those particular points, and those tensions have to be addressed. And I say they have to be addressed because if we look again at the data points, African-American students were twice as likely to want to leave the campus as their white counterparts. White faculty members reported the most welcome among all racial groups, and Hispanic and African-American staff felt the least welcome. And then we talked about the international faculty not feeling as welcome on campus. So when we go back to the data points, we know that we cannot talk about it, but we do have recommendations on how to engage these conversations in a way that puts learners in the driver's seat and people don't feel like they're being imposed on. But again, we need to do the work. There were a lot of concerns about fairness in the hiring and promotion process. And just to be more transparent, concerns about diversity hiring, questioning if search committees were being able to move forward because there were not diverse applicants, questions about who was now being hired and who was occupying positions of leadership. And I don't mind saying that Dr. Mahoney, we actually have had several conversations about the climate survey. And so one of the things that he did, which was very helpful, he actually pulled together the data, and he may want to talk about this later on, but we found that when we looked at the data, that there's this perception that that the racial composition is not what it is. And what I mean by that is that we found that when we look at senior administration cabinet members, and dean positions, that white males and white individuals still occupy the majority of all those positions on the Edwardsville and Carbondale campus. And with exception to one instance, we actually exceed national data when it comes to white males occupying those positions. But there's this perception that that's not the case, but the data shows that we are higher than average when it comes to the white population and white males overall dominating those leadership positions. And two other things I want to point out when we talk about lack of appreciation for work, I think that's low-hanging fruit. We could definitely encourage and use words of affirmation and affirm people in the work that they do. So the question was, if you left SIU, why would you leave SIU? And the top two reasons was lack of appreciation for work and inadequate salary and benefits. So when we ask employees, why do you come here? When we ask students, why do you come here? The reasons vary, but one of the top reasons was location. And then when we look specifically at the staff members, they were the primary group that said benefits were the primary reason that I come to SIU. But again, I also want to mention when we talk about inadequate salary, it's not just because people felt like they were not getting fair wages for the work they were doing. They felt like with the shortages, that now they were doing 2 and 3 jobs and they were not being compensated due to staff shortages for those jobs. So I did want to mention that they might have been hired at a fair wage, but then a colleague quit and now they're assuming their duties and they just felt overburdened. So that's again something that we want to pay attention to. And so again, these are the recommendations. We want to offer ADEI training to all administrators, faculty, and staff members. And this number was actually rated high when we asked individuals across the board, white, Asian American, African American, Hispanic, how important is diversity training? Over 70% of those groups said diversity training is very important. So they agree with the need to have diversity training. We also want to implement an appreciative inquiry framework. And what that does is that actually addresses diversity fatigue. It invites curiosity, it deepens understanding, and it puts the learner in the driver's seat. And so we're going to adopt a lot of those learning models to make sure that we're calling people in to those conversations. And we have done that, and we want to do more of that. Educate students on free speech. We want people to be able to, in the classroom environment, express Christian conservative views, express other views. And again, we're here to teach students how to think well and not what to think. And so those multiple diverse perspectives, do contribute to adaptive insight, and we don't want our students to leave without having those levels of engagement. When we talk about state interviews, we saw that their community members from racialized ethnic groups were more likely to leave the campus. And when you institute state interviews, you do less exit interviews. And so we want to ask 3 questions on a quarterly basis. What is going well? What needs to change if those things are not going well? And what are your future goals and plans for SIU? We want people to actually articulate and do vision casting so they know that we are committed to them staying. I think all of us know from a business perspective, it's much easier to retain a faculty, staff, or student than it is to recruit another one. And then a few more recommendations. We are going to design our monthly conversations of understanding. Those have been happening for the past 2 years. And we are going to make sure that this year we will conduct 6 of those, and all 6 of those will be intently focused on narrative things. So we're going to talk about the bias process and why you shouldn't fear retaliation or fear nothing being done. We're going to talk about qualified applicants in the hiring process and why decisions are made in the hiring process the way they are. We're going to talk about belongingness and what that means, among other topics, but we will definitely do that. And obviously we want to do things to recruit and retain employees of colors as well as LGBTQIA communities. Again, looking at 22% of our students identify with that population. And then again, collaborating, Dr. Mahoney mentioned the research fellows. So we want to, again, leverage their expertise to collect, organize, and examine, as well as report data. And then also, this is, I would say, hot off the press, connecting with John Charles, is that House Bill 5464 has been recently passed, and it is now requiring that all institutions, public and private in higher ed, submit an equity plan. And so that will be another thing that we will develop and implement across SIU schools in compliance with that particular law. And again, this is a snapshot. You have more details in your executive summary. And if we have time, I welcome any questions you may have.
I will start out by saying what an impressive presentation, number one. Number two, you have given us as a board and administration things that we need to work on. Because we want people, both students, faculty, and staff, to get up in the morning and want to go to school and want to go to work.
Absolutely.
And when they don't feel they're wanted or they don't feel appreciated, we need to change that culture. And you've given us a framework for us to do that. And I think that with the leadership we have on this campus and with your leadership, we're going to be making a change. And I hope that the next time we do a survey like this, there will be a lot more positive comments. It's not going to be perfect. We're not a perfect world, but we can do better. And I think it's our one of our missions is to do better for our students, faculty, and staff. So.
More.
Dr. Caldwell, I want to compliment you on doing the climate survey, but more importantly, how knowledgeable you are on the results, and that's leading to these recommendations that are here. So congratulations. I had one question. You made a comment in there about anonymity relative to feedback. Talk to me a little bit more about what you do with anonymous information, because I, for one, in my own organization, don't know how to act on anonymous information because I don't have context.
Yes, and I am familiar with that conversation. As far as anonymous reporting, we can invite that information, and one of the things that we would want to put as we develop a framework for that is that we will be limited in what we can do. And so sometimes when you look at the research, sometimes people want to do anonymous reporting because they're the culprit. And I mean, I've actually seen that they don't necessarily want to put their name as the person who is committing the offense. So that actually happens, you know, at different times. And then also they could be, again, that fear of retaliation is very high. And what I found through the research is that sometimes people think, well, that's irrational. And sometimes it can be, I would say, depending on the context, we don't necessarily terminate people in the law, say that we can't do that. But they found that sometimes up to 40% of people in some way are retaliated against. And so I said that to say that that could be a legitimate fear, but we again want to educate individuals on that. And so at my past institution, I did work with the board members, and there was reluctance to do the anonymous feature, but I explained that it does protect the institution, because if that's something that we need to know and that we don't have that anonymous reporting, it could really bring harm. But then we also issue a disclaimer to say we will be limited to this information because we don't want to go and accuse somebody of something without having all of the facts. The last thing I want to say about anonymous reporting is that oftentimes people report anonymously because there's mistrust. And as you work with that individual, and I've actually had those experiences, then at some point, once you build that trust and help them understand how there's psychological safety in the process, then they're more likely to be transparent with their identity. But it may start out anonymous. It doesn't mean that it has to stay that way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. I think it's, you know, we certainly do actually a lot of investigations of anonymous reporting, and I don't know if everybody actually recognizes that we do that, but it does present, as you noted, some challenges, and that we can't follow up with questions, so it makes it harder to investigate sometimes. And the other thing is, I think sometimes it leads to that perception that we didn't do anything about it because we can't tell you what we did about it because we didn't know who you were. It kind of deals with that. So I think it's part of what we want to talk with people about in some of the sessions going forward. We're certainly willing to take that, but keep in mind this is some of the limitations that occur when it is anonymous. So it is different. I will say it was interesting too, even reading. We read through every single comment, Dr. Caldwell and I. And there were a lot. Took quite a bit of time to do that. So we do take it seriously and look at every single thing that everyone said. But one of the things was interesting, there was a number of them who said, I don't believe this will actually be anonymous or confidential, that who I am when we're responding. And I can swear there's no way I knew who any of those comments came from, just not the way it's reported back to us. But there is that always suspicion, even when in this case, there was no case we could have known.
Yeah.
So.
And we want to assure people, even if it was a way for us to find out, we're not interested.
Right,
we really just want the data. So to go back to Chairman Gilbert, so we can improve the climate. And the only thing I wanted to say, again, I agree that there's a lot of work to do. We do want to be a place where employees and students want to show up every day. But if you go back to the executive summary, even though I might have shared data with like, oh, that's not favorable, when we look at our national benchmarks, even though some of these things are not favorable, we are not at a step with peer institutions. So that does kind of help us temper how we need to view some of this data, because again, we are a part of a society and these issues happen across the campus, and we definitely want to improve it, but we're not misaligned with other institutions. So I just wanted to say that that's worth looking at so we can really temper the feedback that we're receiving.
Okay, any other questions of Dr. Caldwell? Thank you very much.
Impressive.
Thank you.
Nothing further, and thank you, Dr. Caldwell.
Chancellor Lane.
I think I better grab the clicker. Presentation, and while he's doing that, just to piggyback on what my colleague just talked about, a lot of what we're doing is utilizing this campus climate survey as really a cheat sheet for our strategic plan and our Imagine SIU 2030. Inside of that plan, as you know, we have our top 5 priorities: student success and completion, academic innovation and research, diversity, equity, and inclusion, branding and marketing, and sustainability. And as I show you the presentation, we'll get into a little bit of that. But the biggest piece that we think will help Dr. Caldwell keep us honest is we just launched our unit effectiveness plans. So not only do we have the strategic plan, but we actually have our targets, our measures, and how we hold ourselves accountable to a lot of the things that you hear in the campus climate survey that our employees are talking about that they want us to focus on. We're assigning that to ourselves on the administrative team. And so we have a lot of our vice chancellors, our deans that all have unit effectiveness plans that are going to be made public thanks to Will Clark. You just heard from Will Clark earlier today, and Jim Potter. But we're going to keep that plan alive and well as we go forward so people can see the progress that we're making. Wanted to start us off with some interesting things here as we continue to strategically brand the institution. You're noticing some things probably on the highway. You'll notice some things there locally. As you know, that's the bridge over 51. It's probably the best billboard you could have with the number of folks that travel on that route. They get to see SIU Carbondale on both sides with the Saluki head. So a lot of work in branding and partnerships, school spirit, pride, and really not to just be physically located in the Southern Illinois region, but to really make sure that it's a college town and that we partner well with the city. If you look at the sign on the bottom right, that's actually a mural that's going to go up in Carbondale, and you'll see a lot more of those murals go up around the city of Carbondale, thanks to our partnership with the city of Carbondale and the Chamber of Commerce. And so you'll see a lot more Go Dogs, you'll see a lot more Saluki Nation and those things. Thanks to John Charles, got to give John a plug there. John, thank you. That's fresh off hot off the we can't say plate, I guess it would, well, there it is, our license plate. We'll be unveiling that. Before we had the podium, the tower was there. You notice on the left, we have the SIU again with the Saluki head. We're going to roll this out to a lot of our alums that hopefully will want to change their plates and represent Saluki Nation as they're driving around the state, country, the nations. We're excited about that. Whoa, there's some folks. I didn't know if that was working out. Great job, Jim. Well, this is the new craze on our campus. I will tell you that these things are everywhere. This was a partnership with VO, the city of Carbondale, obviously Tina Bennett, Jeffrey Bergen. Those are the folks on there. That was our vice chancellor for student affairs, and then one of his administrators just flying by on campus. You know, we do have to, our chief is probably a little nervous because they're popping wheelies, and right, chief, they're doing some things on there. We probably need to watch them a little closer, but they're having fun, and it brings a sense of excitement when students can get around. It's hard to walk around our campus, especially now in the heat. So a lot of students are taking advantage of those motorized scooters, and it's a moped as well. So We know in the fall, we'll have a big unveiling and welcome week in the fall, and we know students are going to be excited about that. Speaking of students, our new student orientations are going really well. And this gives us sort of a sense of what we can expect our incoming freshman class to be. So it's a really good test. In addition to the housing contracts, as you noticed, are up 4.9%. And so that's really good. And we still have several weeks to go. And we're having virtual orientations at the latter part of July and August because we have really good feedback from our folks that are in Cook County and some of those northern areas that said, hey, it's really hard to get to Carbondale if you want us to come for orientation and you want us to come for the first day of class. So we have a lot of students that are taking advantage of those virtual orientations, and we've added a few more to the mix with some of our agreements that we have there. So really excited about that. Over 1,900 new freshmen or transfer students have participated. We're registered for an upcoming session. And again, we're really excited about that. Next slide talks about a little bit about our outlook. We're very pleased right now, and always have to use a disclaimer that we're cautiously optimistic here because nothing's final until the 10th class day. We still have several weeks to go, but we're promising information. As you can see, we're up in actionable applications. If anyone tells you people are not interested in SIU Carbondale, that's not the truth. We've got a lot of interest that's out there. Trying to yield that interest in admissions. Our admissions numbers are up among, again, new and transfer students. Projected registrations look really good right now. So good that my staff is paranoid behind me with even me giving a percentage. So they're back there shaking. And you know who you are back there. But we're really excited. To give an example, we're up 41% in admissions. I'm sorry, in applications, 36% in admissions. Right now, to date, we've registered about 1,300 students. That actually matches, this is our freshman group, that matches what we ended with on census day last year. And again, we have about 6 or 7 weeks to go. And so that's a very promising number. We've exceeded even the percentage we put out there as a goal. The 5.2% represents our efforts really in the Southern Illinois region. And that's been a strategic focus for us is how do we make sure we recruit students in our own backyard? And that trend you notice is starting to change pretty quickly. I think we have slowed down a lot of students who may be going south to other universities, but we have strategically put some efforts together to keep our students at home. And so we're going to continue to do that going forward. This you will hear a lot about with our Saluki Step Ahead program. This program, just in a nutshell, we've signed now to date about 20 some odd agreements. This is our agreement with the Illinois Community College Board. It really allows students that come from community colleges who are unable to come to Carbondale to finish their last 2 years wherever they are. So you have adult students, students that have families that can't uproot and come 4 hours south to Carbondale. They can do that now from a distance in their last 2 years, and we provide some incentives. There are 48 community colleges in our state. Again, we've already got 20 signed up. We expect to get all 48 signed up at some point in time. We have branched out in some of these shots that you're seeing. We just signed a deal with Lone Star Community College system, where I came from actually years ago. They've got close to 100,000 transfer students. It's a pool that we really want to tap into. We've been over to St. Louis Community College, but we expect to go to Kansas City, Austin, and some other places. Dallas, our agreement with Dallas Community College System should be done as well. Those are large community college systems that really would benefit from the 6 programs that we have included in the Saluki Step Ahead program. So really excited about this. We think this is going to allow students to achieve their bachelor's degree for probably under about $20,000, $25,000 with the incentive we're providing and what they're paying at the community college. They get on the pathway early. So that way, when their credits come over to SIU Carbondale, they're not just applied towards the transcript, they're applied towards a degree. So students don't have to take more hours and create more debt for themselves. So this is, we think, is going to be a pretty big hit. We already have over 50 plus students that have signed up for that, and we have several more that are interested and registered. And we haven't even done any real marketing yet, have we, Jim? And that's just coming to us as we sign these agreements. Very pleased to talk about our Future Scholars Program. This is, Dr. Bouchard, you probably remember this, but with Dr. Seymour Bryson, who was really the catalyst behind having students come in the summer. These are students that in some cases we probably would not have admitted. And as you remember, we had our cohort last year. We admitted about 28 of those students that came from all over the region. But those students came in, had a 100% success rate, moved on and persisted to the fall semester. You're seeing a picture now. We doubled it thanks to the foundation, Matt Kupek, the SIU Foundation. We were able to double that number to 50 students this year. So right now, I just spoke with this particular group this week. The other day at lunch, we had a nice lunch ceremony with the students. But these students are fired up and they're doing well, and they're really appreciating and enjoying their experience. They're taking 8 hours of college level courses, so it gives them a heads up or head start rather on their academic career. And so we're really excited about, again, the work we have with our foundation and with the students that are coming to us that we think are going to do great things. Saluki commitment is something that thankfully our board supported, our president supported, and we launched that last year. This year, we've got a lot of interest, students who are, again, 63,500 and below in their household family income. We're messaging to those students that we're going to be covering their tuition. And when they hear that and see that, they almost can't believe it. But it is a commitment that we're still committed to. It's still going well, and we're attracting a lot of students in this particular category. We think that's going to help going forward. Thanks to the system office and the work of President Mahoney and Dr. Caldwell, we have signed our Hope Chicago agreement. This is going to be another game changer. As you know, this is getting a lot of national attention. You see a shot here on 60 Minutes and some other things that are around. But again, Hope, this particular partnership is going to lower that student debt load. These students will be going to college, in essence, for no charge because of some of the funds that are being raised up there to bring them down. We already have, we brought a group down actually about a week ago, but we've got about close to 30 students already. We expect to have more students from those schools that have been identified through Hope. I think there's an upcoming event that's coming up too. Yeah, coming up Wednesday. So we'll be up there as well and look forward to making sure that those students get a good start when they come here. One of the things, again, as you heard earlier, when we start to look at things in the campus climate survey, we try and attack some of those issues immediately. And this is one example. You mentioned, or Dr. Caldwell mentioned, sometimes folks may be a little fearful to share what's going on and what concerns that they may have. We instituted something that was probably a few years ago, but we brought it back. I'm not sure if it was a few years ago, but we have it now in 2 ombudspersons, one for staff and one for faculty. And our faculty or staff at any time can go to both of our representatives, Lori Foster for staff, Michelle Kibbe for faculty. These folks do not report to me. They are totally working on their own. And at any time, if they see something that causes or raises a red flag, then they will move that forward to the appropriate person on cabinet so we can address it immediately and it doesn't snowball. So excited about that. We have our new bullying policy or piece, thanks to Matt Bauman and some other folks who are working on that. That came from our civil service staff because they said, hey, we need to do a better job with making sure bullying does not occur on our campus. And so we're working through that. President Mahoney mentioned in my 2 years of being here, the first day on the job, I heard pretty loud and clear that, hey, our salaries are not right. We've got some issues there with pay, and you notice that was one of the things in your narrative and your theme was there, so it came out in the study. We took this on about a year and a half ago and instituted a salary equity study, an internal salary equity study, looking at our civil and administrative professionals across campus. That study completed probably less than a month ago. We did have some egregious areas where we had to adjust salaries in the civil service category. There were about 100 employees that we adjusted their salary and that they're being paid right now in terms of what they need to be paid. In the AMP category, there are probably about 20 or so in that category as well. But we have done that work. We have the funding to be able to, with some of the enrollment increases and some of the internal equity pieces that we're trying to do, efficiencies, we're able to take care of those employees. Our next phase is for our faculty salary study. It's an internal study. We'll work with Dr. Lee. He's our faculty senate president. And the faculty senate committee that works with budget and finance. So look forward to doing that early fall, and we'll get a really good look at where our faculty stand. We have a lot of work to do in that category. And as I explain it sometimes to our campuses, you know, it's in some cases we run a sprint, but some cases it's a marathon given what we've been faced with economically over the last probably 10 years at our institution. And so it is doing a lot of catch up, and we are focused. We know where the problems are, but I think it's important that people know it is part of our priority as we look to go forward. One of the things that you just heard, and we're excited, and Glenn, I hope you like that picture, because that's the only one we have. And Joe, if you got another one, we'll use it. So you let us know, but it's going to be in the history book, so you want to get a good shot. But excited about this. You know, we expect to have a big ceremony and make sure that that Joe is giving you the orders on when to do it. So we can make sure we plan it correctly, and we want to blow this out of the water and celebrate this. So again, congratulations to you and your family. Really,
I want to give a shout out to my producing partner and our writer, Jan Thompson, who was a professor of journalism and marketing at the Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. She did a great job, great writing.
When it comes to gun violence in the Carbondale area, the research is still fairly new.
Finding solutions that can have an immediate short-term impact on the nature of the problem, I think, is something we should focus on.
So these were just two clips. You heard all the incredible work that's happening with our faculty. I always like to highlight, obviously we've got a little bit of celebrity on the left side there highlighting Jan Thompson. Jan does an incredible job in journalism and some other areas. And then we have our Associate Dean of Health, that's Tammy Kochis. Tammy does a great job as well. But just the research efforts that are happening on campus to fit the academic innovation and research.
I want to give a shout out to my...
gun violence.
Let me go through those two. The other piece that I think everyone here is excited about is our School of Law expansion to Belleville, but really it's experiential learning program. We're going to have an event. I was told, Chairman, that the governor wanted to attend this event, so I think
we're going to have it Monday, but the governor wants to be there.
He wants to be there, so that's exciting news. Working with the city of Belleville to really do some great things there. So thanks to all that probably have talked about this before I even arrived. I think we have a lot of state reps and others who are really excited about what we can do there. That's the old Lindenwood space that they were using, Lindenwood University was using. So there's going to be a lot of work there. Hats off to our Dean Davidson, her staff, and the faculty that are over in the law school have done a great job with this process. They're excited about it. They've been really working hard to get us there. And so we're looking forward to being there. Finally, I have to give a shout out to our students. They just do an incredible job. When we look at our pillar of sustainability, they're leading the pack in this particular area. SIU, we placed second nationally for our solar Cup team, which was exciting. Awarded more than $60,000 in green funds and grants. So I don't know where the students find the time to do a lot of what they do, but they make us proud all the time when they're winning these awards and hitting all of these great accomplishments. You see a little bit of how what they're doing. They're actually on a roof right there, and you just look at it's just amazing stuff that they're taking part of. So, on that note, thank you very much. Be glad to take any questions. And
any questions of Chancellor Lane? Thank you, Chancellor Lane. Dr. Cruz.
Yeah. Clicker time. Thanks. All right, thanks so much. It's an honor for the board meeting to be hosted here at the School of Medicine. We're glad you're here. Welcome, for sure. Today I'm well, it's interesting. I've been in central administration. I'm in my 10th year here at the School of Medicine. And we've had flurries of leadership changes over the years. 2013, right when I came, 2017 for about a year. Then last year, 2021, into this year, seems like it's every 4 years. Watch out for 2025, right? Anyway, there were 13 major leadership changes that I was substantially involved in the selection process, and I'd just like to talk about each of those for a moment. Let's see. Oh, it's not going, then. There we go. So at the department chair level, our academic departments, the new chairs are these: Dr. Dana Crosby in otolaryngology, head and neck surgery, ENT if you will. Dr. John Acharya, chair of neurology and co-executive director of our Neuroscience Institute. Dr. Riley Jenkins, interim director of our Department of Population Science and Policy, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. Dr. Crosby is a rhinologist and skull-based surgeon, sinuses as well. None better anywhere, that's for sure. Dr. Acharya comes to us from Penn State, and he's an epileptologist. Dr. Jenkins is a doctor of public health. Then in our clinical practice at SIU Medicine, we have a brand new chief medical officer, Dr. Vidya Prakash. She's also associate dean for clinical affairs and population health. You may know she's an infectious disease specialist, and she's helped out in a lot of things at the system level as well, doing a great job. Also, our new chief medical information officer for the practice is Michael Binda. He's a family physician and doing great. And our really brand new executive director of clinical operations, also referred to as our chief operations officer, is Michelle Lynn. She's a registered nurse. Leadership and education administration, there's been a lot of changes. There have been a lot of changes that I haven't been directly involved in leadership changes. You know, you heard from some of our great leaders today in education and research, Dr. Klayman, Dr. Bondmeyer, Fleming, but on the education administration piece, particularly in Carbondale, lots of great changes that are really moving forward down there, but here are some of them. So here in Springfield, Dr. Hanami Adrizi, our new Associate Dean for Student Affairs and Admissions. In Carbondale, Dr. Amanda Mulch, Assistant Dean for Student Affairs there. And Dr. Jennifer Rose is Director of the Lincoln Scholars Program, the new director. So Dr. Adrizi is a pediatric hospitalist. Dr. Mulch is an obstetrician gynecologist who comes to us from private practice. And Dr. Rose is a family physician in the Carbondale program there. And then the last set here of leadership changes are just some others that I was involved with significantly. Dr. Will Robinson, a new chief of vascular surgery in the Department of Surgery, comes to us from East Carolina University School of Medicine. Dr. Chris Meyer, Director of Research and Innovation for our Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, great addition, who comes to us from Northwestern University. Dr. Aaron Haskup is our new director of the newly named Deborah and Dale Smith Center for Alzheimer's Research and Treatment. Cassie Matson is our new director of alumni affairs. So Dr. Robinson is a vascular surgeon, as Chris Meyer is a family physician. Dr. Haskup is PhD in neurobiology in the departments of neurology and pharmacology. And then Cassie Matson is a certified meeting professional who comes to us from the world of private organizations, private professional organizations, banking, and aviation. The one thing I'll say about this is there are 13 positions there. One of them is new, so there were 12 old positions. So of those 12 old positions previously, 10 of them were held by men. You might have noticed on this slide that there were not 10 men up there, as a matter of fact, and now 8 of those 12 are held by women. And I'll say that as we went through this process, I can't say that I or anybody else consciously thought or talked about gender, but we went from 16% of those positions being occupied by women to 75%. And I think it's a testament to the culture change that's happened here related to gender equity and equity in general, that the professional and personal development of various groups has been elevated such that they qualify for positions like this, and that our medical school is attractive to external applicants as well. And I will say that it was exactly 50-50 split in number of qualified applicants for those 12 positions. So that's pretty good stuff, I think. And then just very quickly here, people who have left those, we had 8 retirements, 4 separations. Most of them amicable. But here's a couple who've left the position. So Dr. Samir Boy was the founding chair of our Department of Population Science and Policy. I think most of you know he's a graduate of the combined MD-JD program for SIU School of Medicine and SIU School of Law, and associate professor of pediatrics and of medical humanities and of law. He was just named by Governor Pritzker to be the director of Roanoke Department of Public Health, and he'll assume those duties on August the 1st. And you can imagine what kind of job that is still in the middle of this pandemic. And I think that's a great testament to the training that he's got in this institution down through the years to be named there. And then the other one is Dr. Stacy Grundy, a doctor of public health. She had appointments in the Department of Population Science and Policy and in our Office of External Relations, Community Care. She was also the interim director of the Office of Community Engagement for the SIU system as well. She left 3 weeks ago for her new job at Indiana University Health, IU Health, and she's the executive director of health equity there. That's a 36,000 member organization. It's really big. So that also is a testament to some of the development that was done here. And you know what? I just have to put a smile on my face when people like that get positions like that, and we'll develop more. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz. Dr. Martin.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Gilbert. I have a very brief presentation this afternoon. I hope you'll see some symmetry and connectivity to the 2 previous presentations. The first thing I want to share as the presentation arrives is it is a special season at SIU. Trustee O'Dell is a part of our new student orientation team. We confirmed this afternoon, I think, that there are 17 dates, and I have to tell you as an educator, not just as a chancellor, it is extremely humbling and gratifying to see new students leave their communities and arrive on our campus with a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of excitement. Their families are there, but it's a special season for us to see the whites of their eyes, if you will, arrive into SIU's campus. I should also say the summer means that there are a lot of campers on our campus, summer campers. I have been caught trading lunch items in Center Court, which is a really nice part of the day. Some good stuff in those lunch pails that otherwise might find their way to the trash can. I want to start this presentation just by talking about enrollment. I think you heard from Chancellor Lane also. I think it's probably fair to assume that applications are up in lots of places, and some of that is attributable to it has become a lot easier to apply to college, and it's a lot easier today to apply to multiple colleges. And so maybe, I don't know, as many as 7 years ago, having a greater number or percentage of applications was really a correlate for enrollment, and not so much today. And so I think the name of the game in this season is really about yield, converting those applications and admits to actually students enrolled on our campus. As you heard, this is just a snapshot. We're up about 6% over the same time last year. We do have a good number of weeks to go, and so we're hopeful that we can close on some of the admits that are still out there. The big story for us in enrollment at SIUE is really graduate enrollment. If you look at that number, up 163% over the same time last year. A lot of interest, both domestic and international, in SIUE graduate programs. The two that are growing the fastest happen to be in the School of Engineering and in the online MBA program, which are very popular. So the computer management and information systems program in the School of Engineering is also growing quite fast. So we're happy about that, but we want to see obviously growth both in the undergraduate population and among the graduate population. The next slide I'll show is really focused on connectivity. You may remember the last presentation I made to the board. I spoke a little bit about my commitment to make sure that the 3 locations for SIUE were sufficiently connected and intentionally connected. The East St. Louis campus and the Alton campus, obviously the Edwardsville campus. And I'm very proud of the images you see here. I had the great fortune of attending the Charter High School graduation and being a part of that celebration. Both the valedictorian and the salutatorian will be Cougars. These are students who probably could have attended college in lots of different places. And we don't take for granted that they're going to make a 20-minute drive from East St. Louis to Edwardsville to attend college. Just Tuesday of this week, I got very good news. Most of my team knows I dub as a recruiter for the university. I take that seriously. My second week on the job, I spent at East St. Louis. I had a chance to meet a young student in the robotics lab there. And he was such a phenomenal student. I said to him, surely you're coming to SIUE. And he paused and he said, well, not really. And that was in March. And I have been working on him since. And I was very pleased. I got a note Tuesday of this week from our provost indicating that student indeed has accepted our offer and will be attending SIUE. So we're very proud. I think the last mention here is that we want to create a more intentional bridge from that charter high school to SIUE. And so programmatically, it's not only Hope Chicago, but it's also the SIUE charter school, which is right in East St. Louis. So much so that we held a reception for those students. We wanted to create a very programmatic, symbolic handoff from that charter school to our campus. And so we hosted a reception for them. We invited the families. We invited the staff members from the charter high school during their orientation program. So you see James there, who is probably one of the more popular students in that graduating class, obviously holding the SIUE bound sign. So we're very proud of that. The next thing I want to focus on is community impact. You heard a little bit from Chancellor Lane about what's happening in Belleville. I want to, if I can, create a sort of verbal triangle, if you will, from our criminal justice department to Belleville and the Illinois State Police. We have a phenomenal criminal justice department that has a great partnership with the Illinois State Police to involve students in solving code cases. And the faculty have been phenomenal in giving students real life experience and reopening what otherwise would be dormant criminal cases to give justice to some of those families. In addition to that, we are also establishing, in the process of establishing, the Belleville Center for Justice, which will establish a new master's degree program in forensic sciences. Most of you may know the Illinois State Police is currently dealing with a shortage of forensic scientists, not only today, but there is a projected shortage in the future. So establishing this master's degree program in that location in partnership with the Illinois State Police will really provide the additional scientists needed for our state. And so we're really proud of that. Just to mention on academic excellence, when I talk to people about the early going at SIU, I typically tell them each week I uncover something that's really amazing, but too few people know about it. And this was one of them. I think during our last meeting, I shared a remarkable effort from the School of Pharmacy and that graduating class and the first-time pass rates in the NCLEX, which were 91%. And you think about that, the national average is 84%, and the average for the state of Illinois is 75%. Our students are passing that exam first attempt at 91%, which is really remarkable. #1 in both Illinois and Missouri. In addition to that, the multi-state pharmacy jurisprudence examination, otherwise known as the MPJE, SIU students are passing that exam at 89%, outpacing the national average of 80% and the state average of 73%. So you just think about the pharmacy students that we're producing, #1 in the bi-state area and then top 25 in the country is really remarkable. Last thing I'll show you, SIU is going viral for all of the right reasons. And Ben, if you could please help me share with people why. I hear Ben clicking. And he said to me on the break, we tested it, so we're all ready to go. So maybe I'll tell you about it. Maybe I'll tell you about it as Ben figures out the video. So most of us, oh, wait a minute. Here we go. So you can understand how such a video might go viral. Most of us think of frogs or toads as being extremely capable at jumping, right? And to see a frog or a toad not be able to do that, it raises a certain level of curiosity. You go, what's going on here? Now, some in the Dr. Cruz or others in the medical community, science community may understand what's happening there. SIU is making international headlines through a team of researchers. I just want you to think about this. There's a research group combined of researchers from the United States, Brazil, and the United Kingdom to study these pumpkin toadlets. And the findings are to really sort of understand what is happening here with their inability to not only jump and land properly. These are miniature frogs. Think about being the size of a dime. Some are as small as a housefly. And the evolution of miniaturization has led to some pretty predictable challenges. One area where miniaturization has predictable consequences is in the vestibular system, which acts as sort of a gyroscope, providing sensory information about movement, orientation, and obviously balance. The pumpkin toadlet's findings appear to be an example of what the sort of naturally occurring dysfunction associated with miniaturization. The pumpkin toadlets have become so tiny that the semicircular canals in the inner ear no longer function to control their posture in mid-air, resulting in uncontrolled crash landings. And so you might understand, so what's the relevance for science? Obviously, there are lots of individuals who suffer with balance issues and issues in the inner ear canal. This research that one of our professors is doing, Dr. Richard Essner, is leading an international team. These frogs are located or native to Brazil. And so you think about a faculty member on SIU's campus leading this research team across 3 different countries is really remarkable. I'll conclude there with our summer camps. We are actively recruiting. One of our goals is to have a stronger connection with our surrounding communities. Engaging students as early as elementary school and in middle school is a big part of that effort. And so if you're on our campus, you see lots of signs, volleyball camp this way, science camp that way. But it's really remarkable to see these young people in classes, in classroom, in college classrooms. Some of them, if they're in high school, they're staying in residence halls for a week or 2. But we really see this as an opportunity to engage them early on about being future Cougars. That concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miner. And I want to point out with respect to the expansion into the Belleville area, one of the motivators behind this is Dr. Hightower.
Yes.
In expansion into not only SIU Carbondale with the law school, but SIU Edwardsville with the various programs. And he was able to coalesce the Metro East legislators and community leaders together. That's resulted in our expansion into that Belleville area. So I just wanted to acknowledge Dr. Hightower's involvement in that. Okay, at regular board meetings, 30 minutes will be reserved to receive comments or questions from members of the public and employees of the university. Speakers' comments or questions should not exceed 5 minutes. Persons wishing to speak shall contact the executive secretary of the board. The executive secretary of the board shall maintain a roster of those seeking to speak and shall call the speakers in order. Madam Secretary, do we have any speakers today?
Yes, we do. Our first speaker is Diane Lyle.
Miss Lyle, well, here she comes.
I am here as a representative of the Association of Civil Service Employees Union, ACE. I work at the Carbondale campus. I'm here today to discuss our desire to ease the financial burden that our constituents currently struggle with every day. I hope you've had the opportunity to look at their testimonials. Civil service employees are the backbone of the university. We have the most interaction with students. We are the ones who keep the university running. Nevertheless, the lack of pay increases demonstrates that the board does not regard us as important, significant, valuable, or essential. Substantial pay raises are needed for ACE represented civil service employees. We're making less and less each year because our pay does not keep up with inflation. Healthcare has increased by 37.7%. Energy costs have increased by 41.6%. Our parking fees have increased 62.5%, all of this since 2013. Pay inequity is becoming worse because we are not rewarding employees who remain at SIU. The minimum wage increase has created a salary compression throughout the civil service system at Carbondale. Some new employees are making the same as an employee in the same classification with 10 years experience. New full-time employees make the same or less than some part-time student employees. SIU Carbondale pays civil service staff less than Edwardsville, even though we both do the same job at both campuses. Carbondale has received 4 raises from 2010 to 2018 for a total of 5% and nothing since. Edwardsville, 8 raises from 2010 to 2021 for a total of 17.75%.
Edwardsville make an average of 14.2% higher wages than Carbondale employees in the same classifications. On a personal note, I have worked at SIU Carbondale for 26.5 years. The last 19, I have been an office administrator. A new office administrator at Edwardsville makes 74 cents more per hour than I do, and I've been a lifelong employee. We're being told to do more and more because SIU can't retain its workforce. From 2010 to 2020, Carbondale lost 736 civil service employees. That was a reduction of 5%, sorry about that. Did our workloads also decline during that time? No. Positions are unfilled, so duties have been foisted upon existing employees. Many of us have found ourselves doing work with more than one person, position, or sometimes classification. Most employees have been unable to receive upgrades in their position or receive within classification increases to help offset the expanded workload. Many have left the university. Those that remain are now taking on new work as we put in place the academic reorganization. This leads to burned out and dispirited employees. More people are leaving the university every day, increasing individual workloads further. It is a vicious cycle. Our average employee makes $30,000 a year or $15.89 per hour. It is disgraceful that SIU has full-time employees who are eligible for public assistance. What will a 2% increase do? Nothing. It's only $600 a year before taxes. This is not equitable. The administration is continually being rewarded with raises along with our non-represented employees, no matter what the enrollment is. The university should be a progressive workplace, but the wage situation is very regressive. Our represented employees have not received pay raises proportionate to inflation or the minimum wage. We're doing more and more for less and less. This is not sustainable. The university is no longer maintaining adequate staffing for the university. People leave, fewer people are applying or testing. Why? It's because of SIUC's low wages, high workloads, and a lack of annual increases. We cannot afford to work at SIUC. We insist that you look at our stories. Our constituents open your eyes to the hardships that our constituents face every day. Stop the wage compression. Please take a hard look at our latest proposal, which requests increases that match the minimum wage increases for all ACE represented employees. Show them how valuable they truly are. Allow annual increases to keep up with inflation. Match the inflation increases we have experienced since 2010. Money is not SIUC's most valuable asset. The most valuable asset is the employees. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And I can tell you, we hear you loud and clear. And we as a board, and I know the administration wants to do what we can to increase the compensation of I could say the people are the most valuable asset we have on all of our campuses. And we're going to do what we can to try to catch up and correct it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Yu-Ting Lee.
Thank you, Madam Secretary Whittington. Okay. Good morning, Honorable SIU Board of Trustees, distinguished guests, and other attendees and viewers. I'm here to make a few remarks on behalf of the SIU Carbondale's faculty member and faculty senate. First, I would like to inform you or report to you, the Board of Trustees, about the activities and actions of the faculty senate during the last academic year. Through the shared governance and consolidated efforts, our faculty senate introduced and implemented several important initiatives in addition to the regular business matters, including the following: an ad hoc committee on institutional ranking and educational quality. Advocacy for the SIU Carbondale faculty members through the reduction of racial profiling related to China initiative. Amendment of the faculty senator operating table. Advocacy for undergraduate academic success and mental wellness at the faculty student town hall meetings by working with the undergraduate student government and faculty senator, and advocacy for SIU's shared governance, shared responsibility and accountability, and shared future vision at the IBHE forum by working with Chancellor Lan. Second, SIU Carbondale, like many other institutions in the nation, faces a few challenges and opportunities, which required all of us to work as partners through shared governance and shared responsibility and accountability. More specifically, our student support, our students' enrollment, retention, and graduation rate are the area where both our faculty members, staff members, and campus leaders will work collaboratively and innovatively. Our faculty hires, faculty retention, and equity issue are also challenging and will need improvement in the next few years. The equity issue impacts the morale of the campus employees. Exploration, the faculty equity issue, has shown increased salary gap between faculty members and administrators, especially between faculty members and lower level administrators, such as the chairs and directors in the past few years. At the Research 2 University, some of our research faculty members make less than those faculty members of community colleges. Some of our senior faculty members make less than some newly or recently hired junior faculty members. However, SIU Carbondale is moving in a very promising and positive direction through the SIU Systems Strategic Plan and SIU Carbondale Imagine 2030. We support SIU Systems vision, that is, empower people, transform the world. We appreciate Chancellor Lan for his efforts to improve diversity and equity issues, including adjusting salary issues for civil service employees and administrative professional employees. We are working on a plan to address faculty equity issues. We faculty members are willing to work collaboratively and innovatively with all constituencies and offices, including the Board of Trustees, to address faculty equity issue. You, the Board of Trustees, can advocate for state resources for our faculty member in front of our state legislators and government office. Why? This is because SIU is the Southern economic engine, and our faculty members play a very important role in economic success and cultural, educational vitality and growth in Southern Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Our last speaker is Eugene Kelly.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Eugene Talley, and I'm currently an associate professor in the School of Automotive at SIUC. For the past year, I had served as the interim director for the school. I was voted unanimously by the faculty to lead the program, but I'm here today to explain why I chose to turn the position down. I was hired in 2009. I came to SIU as an alumnus of the automotive program and 23 years of experience in the industry. I did take a substantial pay cut to come here, But my wife and I figured with 10-year promotion and a few raises, I would be back to where I was in a few years. This has never happened. Since arriving here, I have received a raise I earned for 10-year promotion, but the university has not had a merit raise the entire time I've worked here. I have worked far beyond the expectations of my contract every year by advising RSOs, working with numerous companies to grow corporate recruiting and organize events in the summers. I was working to earn the raise that would never come. The current administration has told me that all faculty moving up a level would only receive a 10% raise. This is an unwritten policy that they are holding firm on. The issue with their policy is it does not take into account faculty like me that were hired in a lower salary many years ago. The monthly salary they offered me to lead the program is basically the same as what we're hiring new faculty at. I came here to be part of the #1 automotive program in the country, but I'm watching what is supposed to be a premier program at this university be whittled away by the university that doesn't seem to want to support us because they don't understand us. In the fall of 2019, we had 16.5 faculty on state budget lines. And although we have held our enrollment fairly flat through COVID and all of its challenges, starting in the fall of 2022, we will only have 12 faculty on state lines and 2 faculty that are in fear of their jobs because they are on distance ed funds through the college. When the provost office pushed all the faculty salaries to the colleges, somehow automotive lost 3 NTT lines, and no one seems to be able to tell us how or why. We lost 4 faculty members this past year, 1 to retirement and 3 to industry. 2 of those were tenure track. The 3 faculty that left all went to industry because they did not feel the university was heading in a good direction and that the automotive program was not being supported. They were fearful of the decline of support from the administration. For the fall of 2022, the School of Automotive has had to stop taking students. Unfortunately, based on the number of faculty, we have had to cancel classes and turn students away. Just a little side note, we are expecting 100 of the 1,900 students just in the automotive program alone. I have been told by the chancellor, the provost, and the dean that we will hire more faculty, like it's no big deal. Again, they don't understand our program. For a program like psychology, they may receive 40 or 50 applications for a tenure track position. The last tenure track position we searched for, we had 1 viable outside candidate. The university is not offering competitive packages, so we have a huge problem attracting people from industry to come to Carbondale. There are only a few other 4-year automotive universities in the country, and they are all teaching colleges that don't require research beyond teaching. Not to mention many junior colleges and high schools pay more than SIU currently does. We now have 2 tenure track positions that the program is going to be very challenged to fill, and we have 2 more tenured faculty that will be retiring in the next 2 years. After weeks of trying, I finally had a meeting with the provost and associate provost. As you may be aware, the provost has received a significant raise in 7 of the last 9 years. The most significant one was nearly 58%. When I asked the provost about this, one of her comments was, and I'm going to paraphrase, I received one of those increases because I would make less than my subordinates. When she said this, I simply responded, that's exactly why I'm here. The associate provost was in the meeting as well, and when I asked about his 22% increase to become interim associate provost, and why his salary was so much more than mine, he simply said, I'm in a different program. The reason I bring this up is because I'm told that I can't receive more than 10% and that my go-back salary won't be looked at until after I serve as director. Then based on my performance and number of years, my salary may be adjusted. So if I were to be the director for 10 years, my salary would not have had a performance adjustment for 23 years. 23 years with no merit raises. The chancellor did finally meet with me after calls to the president's office, and all I really got out of that meeting is to be patient. We're going to look at faculty salaries. After 13 years of no raises, how does that help me make a decision about taking the director role and no guarantee that automotive will actually receive any adjustments? I've reached out to peer programs and investigated their salaries. In addition, I've looked at the director's salaries in our college. I would have been considerably lower paid than all of these. All I was asking for was a fair offer, not asking for the highest salary, just an equitable salary. As part of a program that consistently leads all of the university metrics of retention, graduation rate, placement before graduation, all while being one of the single largest programs in the entire university, in contradiction, there are programs that have lost 35 to 50% of their students in just the last 5 years. But they would get the same 10% raise. What's actually valued at this university? I understand that the board voted on an incentive raise for the chancellor. What metrics did he receive? How can schools, directors, or faculty receive some form of incentive? Automotive has consistently led the university in many categories. Why should we continue to do that? As much as automotive and aviation are lauded by administration, and I noticed our pictures in a number of the things the chancellor showed earlier, in the media and the community, we sure don't feel like they actually want to support or grow our program. Is it because they don't understand us? I don't know, but morale is at an all-time low. What the administration's 10% has done to encourage, what the administration's 10% position has done is encourage mediocrity. Why do more? Why be better? Why be the best when everyone is treated the same no matter the outcome? Me being here today is partially to advocate for myself, but honestly, it is to fight for a program that has been a successful and award-winning program for 70 years at SIU. I urge the board to review the 10% policy and all of the automotive salaries as soon as possible before we lose more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. That's all the speakers. Okay, our next item is a call for the omnibus motion. The trustees had approximately 10 days to study the items on the agenda. A certain number are routine or self-explanatory, so as to save time, we will act upon them in one motion and one vote. Madam Secretary, please read the item suggested for the omnibus motion.
The list would be all items F through BB on the full board agenda.
Items F through BB?
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to approve these items? So moved. Second. It's been moved and seconded. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote.
Bruce? Yes. Curtis?
Yes.
Gilbert?
Yes.
Hightower?
Yes, yes.
Odell? Yes. Salger? Yes. Sharma?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes. Are there any separate items?
No.
No. Okay. So before we conclude this meeting, as all of you may know, this is our Executive Secretary, Misty Whittington's last meeting. She's retiring at the.
Before we go there, Dr. Hightower has a comment.
Oh, Dr. Hightower has a comment? Okay. All right. Okay, I will. You want to read Dr. Hightower?
Okay, sure.
Okay, but we're going to read a comment Dr. Hightower just text us.
He asked for this to be read to Dr. Mahoney, Chancellor Lane Minor, Dean Cruz, Dr. Gutchup, and the entire SIU system team. As I am watching and listening to today's meeting of the trustees, it caused me to reminisce and reflect on how far the SIU system has progressed during the past 3 years. You are to be commended on your outstanding and positive leadership that is creating a cultural change across the system. Great job and continued success.
Thank you, Dr. Hightower, for those remarks. As I said earlier, this is our Executive Secretary, Mr. Whittington's last meeting after a wonderful career at the SIU system. She's retiring at the end of August. And as what she does not know about this, but I'm going to propose a resolution that reads as follows.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't even have to write it.
You could have gone all day without saying that. Okay, this resolution reads as follows. Whereas Mr. Whittington has had a long and dedicated career with Southern Illinois University, which began at Southern Illinois University Edwardsville, and then on to the Southern Illinois University system. Whereas Ms. Whittington worked in the Southern Illinois University System Office of University Risk Management and transitioned into working full-time for the Vice President for Planning and Budget. After completion of her bachelor's degree at Southern Illinois University Carbondale, Ms. Whittington accepted a position as a computer information specialist at the Administrative Information System Office at Illinois University, Carbondale. Whereas in November 2003, Misty Whittington accepted the position as Executive Secretary of the Board of Trustees of Illinois University and has served the Board of Trustees with distinction since that date. Whereas her service to the Board of Trustees encompassed periods of prosperity as well as periods of challenge and controversy, and through it all, she provided tireless dedication and outstanding service to trustees and the board as a whole. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees in regular meeting assembled that Ms. Misty Whittington is formally recognized for her dedicated and talented service to the Board of Trustees and to the Southern Illinois University system. Be it further resolved that this Board of Trustees expresses its profound appreciation of her work and service to the board and declare for the record its enduring gratitude for her contributions not only to the Board of Trustees, but to the Southern Illinois University system. Dr. Hightower, will you make a motion approving this resolution?
Yes, I will.
I'll second. And it's been seconded by Trustee Simmons. Ms. Whittington, hope I can say this without crying. For the last time, will you call the roll for this resolution for the board for the last time? And can you do this without crying?
It's gonna be really awkward if someone says no.
Yes. Curtis.
Yes.
Bibbert.
Definitely yes.
Hightower.
Yes, may I say something if you don't mind, please, real quickly? Then I know I'm not supposed to be talking, but I have to say this.
Go ahead. Ed.
Misty, I want you to know on a personal note, congratulations to you on your retirement. You've been the linchpin that has held the SIU system structure together. And certainly all of we veterans certainly know the struggles that we've had over the years. You've certainly been a leader in helping us to navigate through where we are today. So congratulations to you and your family, and best of luck to you.
Thank you. I sure appreciate it.
You got to continue with the roll call now.
Odell?
Yes.
Dogger? Yes. Sharma?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes. The motion carries. Congratulations. There's a resolution that has been framed. And here, stand up. We got to have a picture of you with this. Here, oh my God. Here we go. Come on, run your. Make me one later. Got it. Okay.
Oh, goodness, you guys have been working.
We were sneaky. Well, Paul was a sneaky one.
Oh. And you did your research.
Okay, that concludes the business of the Board of Trustees today. The next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held September 15th at the Illinois University School of Dental Medicine in Alton. The news conference will be held immediately at the conclusion of the news conference at the conclusion of the members of the corporation of the University Park Board meeting, and all the board meetings are supposed to remain seated to participate in that meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn the board meeting? So moved.
Oh, second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I already worked it out.
Oh, okay.
The last roll call was your resolution. Okay. If anybody wants to sue me over it, sue me over it. All right. Thank you. Now, I guess the part of the board meeting starts now.
Yep.
Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Minor.
Thank you, Chair Gilbert. Welcome to the meeting of the Corporation of the University Park, Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville Incorporated. And now I'll call the meeting to order and ask Ms. Whittington to call the roll of the members.
Mahoney,
Here.
Minor,
Here.
Brew. Here. Curtis,
Here.
Gilbert,
Here.
Hightower,
Here.
Odell. Here. Felger. Here. Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Here.
and Tedrick. A quorum is established.
Thank you. The first item of business on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the July 15, 2021 meeting. Are there any edits or revisions to the minutes? Hearing none, if there are no objections, the minutes are approved as presented. The next item on the agenda is the election of members of the Board of Directors of University Park. This matter would re-elect 5 community directors to the Board of Directors. Terms of the community directors would commence on July 1st, 2022 and conclude June 30th, 2024. In addition, this matter would elect 1 and re-elect 1 administrative director. The terms of the 2 administration directors would commence July 1st, 2022 and conclude June 30th, 2024. All have agreed to serve if elected. Is there a motion to pass this resolution? So moved. Second. There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion to approve the resolution is passed. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? So moved. Is there a second?
So second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion is passed. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone, and safe travels back. And I guess John, I guess we have a press conference now if there's press available. That's here.
And I don't believe. Les, are you still with us on Zoom?
Les Odell.
And we don't have any media here.
Something slipped by you.